Need to have the mic on. A star-studded morning here on GCR. Not only is Stan the Fan Charles here, as he is every Friday, but this man just came barreling through this morning, screaming and yelling. We need his mic on too.
I knew Stan was here.
Oh, okay. And so you came in.
I used to listen.
And do I owe you money?
I used to listen in Glen Burnie. I want to be Stan Charles when I grow up.
And how'd that work out for you?
I'm sitting here with you.
You know what? Look at dreams do come true. That's what I've heard over the years.
I want to be Stan when I grow up.
All right, everybody's tuned in because they want to see the emotion of the final Lamar-O-Meter. Get your thing out of the way. Go ahead. Say what you came here to say.
I told you he was going to sign the whole time.
Go ahead.
I told you.
Never a doubt.
Never a doubt.
I didn't think there was. I mean,
look. I don't like giving Drew credit ever, but every time we did this, he said, "You might as well make it 100%."
They were never going to let him go. They just weren't.
These are 3 words that I'm allergic to saying.
Said that you've never said these to Margaret or me.
Right. Well, one of you's never been right before.
Right.
You were right. 100%. That's the case. Anything else that you have before we?
No. Just
right.
wanted to.
We actually have I know it's going to sound crazy. We planned a show today.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Why would you do that?
We booked things.
Why would you do that?
I know, right? It's nuts.
What do you think of the O's so far?
Awesome. I mean,
Very
look, right, and I think they've gone through interesting stretch here, right? They're 17-8. They've had 6 or 7 games where their offense was on fire. 6 or 7 games where their bullpen was really good. 6 or 7 games where the starting pitching was really good. And
one of them wasn't last night.
But and even Bautista last night, who doesn't looks like something is missing with him. But even then, he's still got enough. He got enough to get it done. And I think as long as they they're hitting. As long as they hit, they're going to be fine. Their pitching's decent enough. It's not great, but it's decent enough. They just have to make sure they need more out of Henderson, more out of Santander, and more out of Frazier. But if they get hitting,
or they're just going to have Joey Ortiz play, and then they don't need.
There you go. Right. No, I think they're on to. I mean, you're not. I mean, maybe the Pirates are a fluke at 18-8, but I don't think this is a fluke that you're seeing from the Orioles.
All right.
I just don't. I don't agree with that. I mean, Pittsburgh.
I think they're a very interesting team, the Orioles.
I agree.
They really are.
I agree. And
I didn't like putting Bautista in the game last night. I didn't understand it. You got a little stretch where you're playing. You got 4 games against the Tigers. You got a 4-run lead. Why not leave Aiken out to pitch an inning?
Right.
Another second inning.
And
of all the things about Hyde that I mean, we do this all the time, right? Every game we nitpick and we say he's
because he's been here for 4 years and he's never really managed games that meant anything.
Right,
yeah.
And I would say the one thing about him is some of his pitching decisions are odd. He's shown that over the years.
Though.
I like him as a manager. I think he.
Let me ask. We got to do the Lamar-O-Meter in a second. Is he
going to sign or not?
Yeah, I know. We'll get around to that. Hopefully,
right.
It'd be really nice.
tid-bit.
Yeah, right. Is there any chance that before the All-Star break that there is a controversy about who this team's closer should be?
The Orioles closer should be.
You're saying
who?
Cano stays this high.
Cano and
no, I think Bautista's
not unless he blows 3 saves in 12 games or something.
I hear you. He was trying to last night.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the eye for it, but there is definitely something different. To me, it's something different about him, command-wise, than there was a year ago, and I don't know what that is, but he was not nearly this wild last year.
Figured it out just in time last night, and I appreciate that. All right, you got a Patriot. You're going to the Patriot
League golf today.
Are they actually going to be able to do that? Or
it's an outdoor sport. They're playing.
Okay.
I know it's a shame. They've been playing this for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. My buddy is the coach. Chris Below is the coach. They've known for 3 years it was going to be these 3 days.
And they're all going to be.
And they're all going to be all going to be rain.
That's brutal.
All going to be rain.
Right.
Hey, I love the Lions draft last night. I think they cutting edge stuff.
It's funny. The rest of the league's like, maybe we're going to consider running backs, and the Ravens are going to be like, nope, now we got to go get a bunch of wide receivers.
The Lions, when they called the guy from Alabama, the guy's like,
are you sure?
I think you got the wrong guy. Not a first round.
If you're going to call, you might as well say you're from the Yankees.
Correct. Yeah, I got to put some tires on. I'll be right back. The guy definitely even the Campbell guy they called, he's like, I think you guys – You sure you're? This is not the third round.
You know, it's the first round, right?
Poor Lions. All right, guys, have a good day. Stan, good seeing
Are you coming in next Wednesday?
I have no idea.
You might as well
so.
show up for work
I
once in
think
a
so.
while. All right.
I think so.
Drew Forrester came in here like a bat out of hell, just flying in this morning because he wanted to. He's been thinking about it since last night. He just wanted to say, "Told you so." That's all that I know what that was. In fact, I think he's lying about having been over at Calvert Hall.
Really?
I think he drove over here purposefully because he is.
There was a car when I got here at like 9. There was a car with very suspicious headlights on.
Oh yeah, everything about Drew Forrester registers as suspicious. All right, Stan the Fan. This is an emotional moment. Did you prepare a speech for this? Or
No.
Do you want to?
Because it was your baby.
Right,
but you've weaned this baby. You know.
Wow, did it suckle from my teat? Like I'm not sure it worked that way.
Yeah.
Do you have like Amazing Grace? You want to play taps in the background?
I just
something
want
like
to thank
that?
the folks at Glory Days
Sure,
Grill
want to
for
do that.
sponsoring our
Sure,
Lamar-O-Meter.
want to do that.
I prefer the Lamar-O-Meter.
It was Lamar-O-Meter is what Griffin always liked to call it.
Lamar-O-Meter.
Lamar-O-Meter has been brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports. Look, we had a lot of fun with this, and it was a reflection of what the city was feeling.
Where's the tiki torch? I thought we were going to burn it.
So a lot of people brought up the idea of a Viking funeral. We're holding out one other idea that we like. There were two other ideas that we like. Somebody suggested we should put it on display permanently at Glory Days Grill.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk to them, see if that's something they want to do. They were kind enough to sponsor it, so if that's something that they would
They
want.
don't want to be that closely associated.
I don't know. But the other idea that we had was to hold out and see if at some point Lamar would be willing to sign it, and then we could auction it off for charity. And that's a good
Stan Charles Fund.
The Stan Charles Foundation, yes. That's a good enough idea that I'm going to go ahead and leave it up for a little while in case at some point that could be a possibility. We love doing it. It was fun. It was an honest reflection of what everybody was talking about on a day-to-day basis here.
Very, very good idea.
So, we'll miss it in that way. Like, in a weird way, we'll miss the fact that it was something that we could do every day. But ceremoniously, it is time. Let's go ahead and do it. 100%. 100%. That is the end of days for the Lamar-O-Meter. It served us very well for the last few months, and we appreciate the fact that the Glory Days Grill.
How long was it up?
When did we put it up, Griffin?
90
Do you remember?
days? Is it 90 days?
It was right at. It was. I mean,
I got back from Florida on March 15th.
And was it here when you got back?
It was the week of March Madness. So it was
okay. It was when March Madness started. So it was the better part of 2 months. I mean, it was the better part of 2 months that we had the Lamar-O-Meter up, and there were plenty of times along the ride we were like, "Are we gonna be doing this through the season? Like, are we gonna be doing this right up until week 1?" Thankfully,
I'm scratching my head though. When I sat in for you like 2 weeks ago, it was like at 58 or 62% or something, and I had the ability to move it up,
right?
And I moved it up to 78%, right, Chris?
Because
something
happened that day.
Something happened the day before
that made it.
Yeah. It was the day that you weren't here.
Right,
Stan,
I was out at Deep Creek.
But I didn't just
Stan
come
just had a
in
good
and
feeling.
say,
Did
hey,
somebody
was
there quarterback movement elsewhere? Was there somebody else that we thought might have been in on Lamar that ended up doing something
they
else?
Announced that they were just another
The
team.
Colts maybe at that point, because remember the Colts for a minute were they were the team that was still kind of hanging around and didn't reject the idea. So maybe that was the day. Then there was a report that the Colts were out on Lamar, and that might have been the reason.
That, yeah.
I didn't write anything that had to do with anything specific, but Stan just said that he believed the market was down, and there wasn't anywhere for him to go.
As it turns out, he was right.
Yeah.
As it turns out, no. In fairness, look, we've been above 80% for a few weeks now, and haven't moved it from there. The only time it was really ever all that down was, of course, the
emergency update.
The emergency update, the moment that the trade request became public. That's the only time that we ever had that moment. And even a day later, we were like, okay, we overreacted to that. We overreacted to it. It's not a end-all, be-all. He's not saying I'll never play there again, anything like that. And the meter went back above 50%. It stayed that way. Look, meter was fun. It was. I
like the way what you said. It was an honest reflection of what the psyche Baltimore sports was thinking about.
And that's why we did it, and we had a good – that's how it started. It started because literally we were coming in every day, Griffin and I was like, well, if I had this, like, meter, I would say – and so one day I just said to Griffin, you know what would be crazy if we just actually put a meter up to reflect that? And sure enough, our friend Gwen's Chili Bowl was kind enough to make that meter for us, and – now we don't have to do it any longer. We can sit it at 100%, and we'll leave it at 100% in perpetuity.
Is there any point of saving it for the next contract at Lamar?
Right, do it all over again here in 5 years.
In 5 years, 4 years.
Maybe. We'll see how that goes. But again, thank you to Glory Days Grill. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports. They made it possible for us to keep doing it every day, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate all of you who would message and be like, where's the meter at now? That was what made it fun for us, is that you guys enjoyed it too.
So here's a question.
Yes.
Without Glory Days Grill.
Oh, we could have never afforded.
Our cost was so
way
excessive.
too much. Way too much. That we would have never been able to do it. Yeah. So two things quickly. One, for those of you that it suggested we do like a D-hop meter, I think after the events of last night, we know that's not going to be the case. I had someone suggest we do a Hunter Dickinson meter. I think that's going to be over within a week as well. We're not going to do that. But I'm pretty sure there will be a new meter that will be not replacing or be moving. That will be a new meter is what I'm going to tell you. We're going to continue to stay in the meter business. It was so good to us that we're not going to abandon the meter business altogether. We will wait and inform you about that one. I think a few of you have already guessed what that meter will be. And we won't do it every day the way that we did the Lamar-O-Meter, but we will have a weekly check-in on a new meter. When it is Gwen's Chili Bowl willing to make that one for us?
Yes, I'm sure she will be.
Wonderful.
I'll make sure.
Wonderful news. I like that a great deal. So at some point in the next week or two, we will unveil the next meter, and we will have weekly updates on that meter, and we'll look forward to that at that point.
What would be interesting would be a Glory Days-ometer.
Just am I going to go to Glory Days today?
No, to see if they're going to sponsor
the next meter. That's a very good point.
That keeps them alive, in the action.
Stan, we talked briefly, you and I, yesterday. By the way, we got a lot to do on the program today. So, again, thanks to Glory Days Grill. The end of Lamar-O-Meter. Our fun is over, and that means the fun can begin because Lamar Jackson will be the quarterback in Baltimore moving forward, and we don't have to worry about this any longer. And I appreciate that. Coming up on the program, we're going to get to know Zay Flowers a little bit more. Joining us a little bit later on, Daniel Luque, who was his high school coach down in Broward County, is going to check in with us. Also, Mark Herzlich, former Boston College linebacker, very inspirational figure. Remember, he overcame cancer during his college career and had a nice career in the pros. He's now an analyst for ACC Network, and he did a bunch of Boston College games last year. So we're going to find out a little bit more about Zay Flowers from those two.
Do you know that much about him? Because the
Zay
most
Flowers?
curious thing for me is this guy is obviously incredibly gifted player.
No question.
And sounds like a neat kid, too.
Mm-hmm.
But why Boston College? If he was that talented coming out of
and
Florida.
I think that's why, in part, we wanted to have his high school coach on, because he was not thought of that way.
Yeah.
Now, the word is that within his college career, the big schools started coming after him, the sort of re-recruiting business that now exists with NIL money.
Right.
The big schools were seriously coming after him over the course of the last couple of years. But coming out of high school, it was not the same attention. So what changed, or why wasn't he getting? Was it just his size? Was it as simple as, hey, we like the player, but we don't know about a 5, and who knows what he was coming out of high school, 5'7", 5 something like that, receiver. Might not be the guy. So that was part of the reason why we said let's reach out to his high school coach and try to figure out how this meteoric rise occurred. Also this morning, the governor is scheduled to join us. Wes Moore is scheduled to check in. He's obviously very excited about Lamar Jackson. He's going to claim that it was all him, I think. I think he's going to say, hey, look,
he got in.
Campaign promise kept. Right? I'm pretty sure that's what he wants to say. But Governor Wes Moore is scheduled to join us to talk about that. And also, we're going to make a trip to Delmarva. We're going to be doing that throughout the season. So we'll be checking in. We do Bowie on Thursdays. And then I think every other Friday, Delmarva is going to be checking in with us. Creed Willems, who's off to a hot start. Don't know where there's room for a catching prospect right now, but if his bat is the way it's been to start the season, I think they'll find a spot for him moving forward. So we'll catch up with Creed Willems a little bit later on in the program.
John Mioli, who writes now for the Baltimore Banner, used to write for the Sun for a long time, had a piece up about 4 prospects that were really interesting, through the first 3 weeks of the season, and he had Creed Willems as one of them.
He is swinging a bat, man. There's no doubt about it.
And apparently came in with a much leaner look and meaner attitude.
I like all of those things. Leaner, meaner, all of them. Give me every single one. Stan, just your quick reaction to both things combined, the Lamar Jackson deal and the Ravens' decision to go receiver in round 1 with a lot of, the cornerbacks were still there. Deonte Banks was still on the board. Joey Porter is still on the board to this point. Nolan Smith was on the board. There were some options there. They decided to go receiver. Your thoughts on both?
I misread that yesterday when we started our StreamYard thing, like at about, what time was it, about 3:45 or something?
I thought it was more like 5 at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said with Lamar signed now, I thought that they were going to move clearly to a defensive back pick. And then you threw in, well, there's a hot rumor about the DeAndre Hopkins thing. And then when that proved not to be the case, they clearly had really wanted to get Lamar's buy-in with what they were doing. It's kind of like the opposite of what the Packers did 4 years ago, or 3 years ago when they drafted Jordan Love, when the club obviously had some other needs. They really wanted to win him back over, to really get his buy-in. And it's clearly going to be a very, very interesting and entertaining offense.
It sets up to be that, right? It sets up. I think it goes back to Lamar Jackson has kind of made it clear the last couple of years he doesn't necessarily want to run the type of offense the Ravens had been running. He wants to open things up a little bit more. I think there is room for a healthy debate about whether or not that's the best thing for the Ravens to be doing. I think most of us were prepared for it to be not the Greg Roman offense any longer, but is there room in between those things? And I certainly still hope that there is room between those two things. I don't want to see them suddenly become a team that throws 50 times a game. I think that's nuts. Now, when you have these guys all on the field, Bateman, Andrews, Flowers, and Beckham, they're all going to want the ball. I know that much. Like, there's going to be a lot of thought for, I want to get the ball my way. I want that to happen. You hope that you are putting something out there that becomes extraordinarily difficult for opposing defenses to account for. And on paper, remembering that Lamar Jackson still is capable of running on top of all of it, it seems like the Ravens are putting something on the field that is going to be very difficult for opposing defenses to account for.
We always look at those playoff losses and go, that's a problem with Lamar. The problem was Lamar. Maybe the problem was that the offense was so all in on one thing that it became very difficult to do that one thing when teams said, hey, they're one-dimensional. They really aren't going to throw enough to beat us. Let's keep him contained, and teams were able to stymie him in the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah, and maybe now this will be a vastly different thing, and teams are going to go, wait a minute, how do we stop this? Because there's so many different options.
Look, I am still concerned about the fact that right now Brandon Stevens would be your second cornerback.
Yep.
I don't love that. Has been pointed out by a lot of people, Rocky Scene is still on the market, and they could still bring back Marcus Peters, and there's a common belief that the Ravens wanted to get through the period where it would count against your compensatory picks. So after next week, they would have the ability to sign any of those guys. I don't necessarily love those as being answers. The Marcus Peters that we saw a year ago did not look like the same guy here in Baltimore. You hope that was just a physical thing and that if he's healthy, he can be more like the Marcus Peters we saw for the couple years before that. I'm not going to pretend like I've watched a ton of Rocky Yacine to know how comfortable I am with him, but let's be honest, he's available on April 28th, and that does not give me a great amount of assurance about where he is. There are still a couple other things in play. Ken Zales, I was doing a video with him last night. He suggested there are still guys that could linger into the third round that he thinks could be impactful cornerbacks in the draft and could help out, or there's still the possibility, as Eric DaCosta again was dodgy last night when was asked about Patrick Queen's fifth-year option. There is also still the possibility that the Ravens would move Patrick Queen. Now, in doing so, you'd weaken a defense that with both those guys on the field a year ago was exceptional, and you didn't address. You're kind of acknowledging you're not going to be able to have the same caliber of defense on the field if you make that move. But could you make that move to find you a second-round pick that could help at the cornerback position? Could that get you a Keely Ringo from Georgia, Cam Smith from South Carolina, somebody like that? That's a possibility as well. I like what they've done offensively, Stan. I just acknowledge that it comes at a bit of a cost because they haven't been able to upgrade their second cornerback spot, and that I think it's reasonable to describe that as a concern for me. Like,
in fairness to the Greg Roman critics now, he got a bit of a bad break, and break is the right word with the injuries to J.K. Dobbin, to Gus Edwards, and to
Lamar,
Ronnie Stanley.
Sure.
Those weren't part of the plan to have those three significant injuries.
Not at all. And again, remember, a year ago in September, even with just one wide receiver on the field, the Ravens looked like world beaters offensively. Lamar Jackson was a front runner to be MVP after just 1 month. But I think we all agreed it was time, and I think we all are cautiously optimistic about the direction of this offense moving forward. And the buy-in from Lamar Jackson obviously feels real. I thought the deadline was because they wanted to get on DeAndre Hopkins. Eric DeCosta last night was saying there was no deadline. Lamar just called, just said on Tuesday, I'm ready. Let's talk. And it had nothing to do with the deadline, and it was just Lamar Jackson kind of making a decision on his own. So he's very clearly feeling something, which we like.
Yeah.
All right. Hour number 1 of today's show is also brought to you by A.J. Michaels, expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. Let's learn a little bit more about the Baltimore Ravens' first-round pick. Our next guest is a former Boston College Eagle himself, and he's been doing a lot of BC games because he has been working with the ACC Network in recent years. He is a Super Bowl champion. He is a conqueror of cancer. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the program Mark Herzlich, who's with us now here on GCR. Mark, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, sir. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Anything for my boy Zay. He is awesome.
So tell me about Zay. What I hear from everybody is about Zay the person, right? And when you say that, it sounds like you're backing that up. He comes off as a really unique, fun person. I think his story of being one of about 1,000 siblings as a kid, and some of the tragedy that he dealt with. Can you tell me, before we talk about him, the football player, what do you think we should know about the person that's arriving in Baltimore?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think there's plenty of reports, and you can read plenty about his decision to stay at BC last year after he was offered a bunch of NIL money to go other places, but he felt like this was the spot that he and his father chose to go to school and get an education. He has a great relationship with his dad. You mentioned all his siblings. I think he has about 15 siblings, which again, he knows how to deal with relationships in a big locker room at home, anyways. But I think what sets him apart, right, is his ability to enjoy football, but also push at an extremely high level, right? And it's, I think the interesting thing is that I saw similarities when Odell Beckham Jr. came into the Giants as a rookie. I was on that team. And I saw, just this unique talent, but also a guy who just, loves the game of football and works hard to do it. Now, I think Odell is a little more serious on the serious side. Zay is a little bit kind of more goofy and kind of the fun-loving type, but I think that their personalities are going to jive super well together. And then, he's one of those guys who, wants to have the football in his hands to make plays. And, he wants to be able to be the guy who can throw the extra block to spring someone free. He wants to be the guy that gets the ball. We're down 2 touchdowns. They had that situation a lot when they're at Boston College. Like, hey, just throw the ball up to me and I'll go find a way to make a play. And he does. And I think over the last year, what has set him apart and made him become a first-round pick was his ability to play the ball in the air downfield, because he can make anyone miss within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's fine. It's just how well can he adjust to a deep ball thrown, and he did phenomenal this past year against some good defensive backs in the ACC.
Mark, what you bring up, obviously, you know that there will always be people that will just say, I just can't have a 5'9" wide receiver. Like, God bless, he's talented, but I can't have a 5'9" receiver. Why was his height never a detriment to him? Why was he able to be so dominant despite the fact that he wasn't born with the same physical gifts that some other guys were born with?
Well, let me just tell you this, is that his height was actually a detriment to him early in his career. He developed the ability to run deep routes, create separation on the deep ball, and go up for balls with the right timing. You know, which is interesting that, you know, some guys have just this real natural ability, right? But what I love about Zay is every year he identified something that he wanted to improve on in the offseason. He highlighted that thing, he focused on that thing, and then he improved on it when he got in game situations. So, you know, the first year he was really a swing screen, reverse type of gadget guy. And then he said, look, I'm going to need to do more than this. It was a big running offense. Then got a new coach at Boston College, and he said, okay, I want to be versatile enough to play every single spot at the wide receiver group as well as running back, which he did. The next year is how can I work on the deep ball, and he's done that. So I think that's encouraging for Ravens fans as well, is that he's a guy who really understands football. He's a smart player. And like, I could totally see, I mean, Odell is probably one of the smartest wide receivers I've ever been around. I mean, I would watch him practice where, you know, someone else would mess up their route, but he knew the route tree so well that he would adjust his route to find the open lane and replace what the other person was doing on the fly to pick up first down. Like, that's what Odell does for a team. So with him and Zay Flowers to you know, be able to play off each other, obviously, and then Lamar can create crazy things too. I mean, you know, if everybody's clicking, it could be really, really fun to watch.
Mark, you partially answered my question in your answer, the previous answer, but were there other schools interested in him above Boston College? Because, you know, with the quarterback caliber at BC, you would have thought if he was that gifted back then, he would have had his pick of where he wanted to go.
Yeah, coming out of high school, you know, again, you see a wide receiver who has a bunch of talent, but, you know, he was small, like really small. Yeah. I mean, not only was he short, but he was super light and quick. And I think, you know, if I'm remembering correctly, he was one of those guys, a part of Steve Adazio's like final recruiting class, and he was a little bit of an under the radar guy. Had a big senior season in high school, and so was like recruited a little bit late, but came on as, hey, like, this is a guy to watch early on. And then his sophomore year, it basically was like, look, this is the Zay Flowers show. And, you know, combined with Phil Dracovic, who had transferred from Notre Dame, I mean, they put on a show that first year in 2020 with COVID year.
And look where we are now. Mark Herzlich is with us, former BC Eagle himself, of course, ACC Network, and we're chatting about Zay Flowers, the Baltimore Ravens first-round pick. Mark, does it feel like, to begin his career, when you talk about, and by the way, the stuff you're giving us about Odell is also really fascinating, but does it feel like, knowing that Odell's there, Rashad Bateman's there, that the natural thing for Zay Flowers, at least to begin his career, is to start as more of a slot receiver and kind of use that underneath stuff, the stuff where you get the ball in his hands and get him into space and let him go create? Does it feel like that's the natural way for him to begin his career? Not saying he can't be an outside receiver, as he clearly proved that was possible during his career.
No, I mean, I think that's where you use them. I think that, you know, if you're naturally going to line them up, you know, you put Odell at the X and the single receiver side, and then put Zay in the slot, and then Bateman at the Z. But what I love is the ability to get in those bunch set looks, the ability to take Odell, line him up outside of Zay Flowers, motion him inside of Zay Flowers, and now you have two receivers that can be slot receivers, that can also be, you know, outside receivers. And so while you look at both of those guys and neither one of them has like the stature of a Mike Evans where you just know he's going to be a threat, on the outside, both can burn you with speed and then just catch everything that comes to them. So, I think that I love the versatility of it. And I love how Odell can mentor him too, right? I think that, anytime you are a number one pick at wide receiver, you're begging to go in and not be the number one wide receiver on the team, right? You want to go in and you want to have someone else who can, take some of the pressure off you and also teach you the ropes. That way you can get your feet wet rather than being double teamed every play.
Do you, when you hear the comparisons to Steve Smith Sr., like, do you say, hey, let's ease up on all that, or do you say, no, that actually sounds about right to you?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I like the comparisons to Steve Smith. He obviously, played forever, right? So like you think back to like which Steve Smith you remember, and whether it's the punt return ability, his ability to make big plays, but he did it for so long that I think like that's what defines Steve Smith's career. But it is that similar type of ability on the outside to make plays, also to come inside, and Steve Smith did it for a long time at a really high level. It's an interesting comparison, one I had not thought of before, but I like it.
Mark, I'm just wondering how closely have you observed Todd Monken's career, and just wondering how creative you think his football mind is.
Well, I think that when you look at kind of what he has done and where he's been, obviously, with Georgia and the Browns, but he's been all over the place.
Yep.
But I think one of the things that he's going to have to do, right, is how do I incorporate this college style offense that is very dictated on kind of what the defense does, RPO style, the ability for a quarterback like Stetson Bennett to run the ball. Now you have a quarterback who can also do that, right? Run the ball really, really well, probably one of his best traits, but also use his arm strength and ability. So, like, he has all the experience to be able to do it. He was a wide receivers coach in the past, so wide receivers coaches always love to get their guys involved and have a knack for the pass game. So it's going to be really interesting, and I hope that they use the versatility of game plan to match their versatility of personnel, because if they can do that and do it in a simplified manner where a lot of those checks can be made at the line of scrimmage, it can be a fast-paced but also very versatile offense.
Mark, before we let you go, I'm sure you've heard over the years a lot of people say, "Oh, Odell Beckham, he's a diva. He's that type of wide receiver." The guy you're describing to us is not that guy. Yeah, right. Yeah. What are the Ravens getting? What will Odell Beckham be like? Obviously, the question is, how healthy is he, and at this point in his life, can he be a version of what we saw early on? But just as a teammate and as a man, exactly what is arriving in Baltimore and Odell Beckham?
You're getting, first of all, you're getting a guy who loves football, right? I think that that's an assumption for pro athletes, is that they love what they do, and I would say that that's not always the case. He loves what he has done, and so I got to know Odell very early in his career, and know his mom, and I saw a player who was forced into a position to have to carry the team on his back at times. I mean, that's just the way it was. He was in his second and third year with the Giants. We didn't have a ton of offensive weapons, and so it was like, okay, Odell, you need to do it. He put all that on his back, and so when he didn't perform to his standard, meaning 100% perfection, he would beat himself up about it, right? And that's when you saw the kicking net ordeal. That's when you saw the helmet throw. Like, he felt the pressure of the entire organization on his shoulders. And, he's gone other places, and he's, dealt with injuries last year and all this stuff. But I feel like he has matured. I feel like he has a sense of who he is. He has something to prove. And also when he is able to create, right? When he's able to have the option routes, freelance, use a guy like Lamar Jackson, it'll bring the most out of Lamar, I believe, and bring the most out of Odell. Kind of like, I don't know if you guys, watch Ted Lasso. Great show, right? Jamie Tart. He's like this diva in the beginning of the show, right?
Yeah.
But then he becomes like, hey, I know I'm really good, but I don't have to do everything, right? And like that to me is the situation that the Ravens provide for Odell.
Are you telling me that Odell Beckham's going to start trying to hug Roy Kent at some point in the coming seasons? Because I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm good with that. At
Hey,
Mark,
take some nerve to hug Roy Kent.
Oh my God, does it ever? At Mark Herzlich on Twitter is how you follow him. He wrote a book years ago called What It Takes, and I remember talking to you when that book came out, and it was a really powerful read for me about your journey and everything you have been through. It is awesome to see you thriving and what a role you cut out. Is there anything else we can plug for you, man?
No, just appreciate it. Right now, I'm actually working for an NGO that ends human trafficking. It's the largest anti-slavery NGO in the world called International Justice Mission. So if you have a heart for freeing slaves across the world, there's 50 million people trapped in slavery right now. If you have a heart for that, go to ijm.org and help free people and bring them back to their families.
Mark, did you say 50 million people?
50 million people right now that are currently enslaved in the world, which is the most populous in the entire human history. And it's wild and almost unbelievable, but it's true.
It's great work. Again, can you plug that website one more time so we can share it out?
Sure, it's IJM.org, internationaljusticemission.org.
Very good. Mark Herzlich, appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for taking the time for us.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Mark Herzlich with us here on GCR, former BC Eagle, and I've totally forgotten that he would also have been with Odell in New York. I mean, of course, won a Super Bowl together. So great stuff from him. Appreciate that. And obviously very excited about Zay Flowers. Of course, everybody is this day. That's the way that it works, other than maybe the folks in Detroit, as Drew Forrester brought up. I think they might be a little bit more trepidatious about what it is that their team did in round one, or the people in Atlanta who are like, man, they put together so many skill position players, which would be great if you had a quarterback. That would be a great thing that everybody who was tweeting out last night about, man, look at all these Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, and they got Drake London. Like, boy, they have really put something together there, too. Right. Yeah, they sure have. Now, imagine if they had someone they could line up at quarterback. They might really be cooking with gas at that point.
And it won't be Lamar.
It will not be Lamar. There's no doubt about that.
They were one of the prime teams we thought might take a stab.
I had been told directly by someone in Atlanta that they were enamored. Now, what I was told later was they understood it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Like that all of the things that we had heard to begin with weren't untrue.
Mm-hmm.
It's that teams didn't realize that the Ravens were going to make it. And this was the story of what happened was the Ravens said, don't bother.
Right.
You can, if you want to go in there and do whatever you want to do, it's all well and good, but you're not going to come away with Lamar Jackson, so figure something else out. Because we're keeping Lamar Jackson privately, publicly. I will give the Ravens all the credit in the world. I say all the time, I never know when they're being truthful and when they're not being truthful. They never publicly,
wavered.
Privately, everything they said was always down. Whenever this thing seemed awkward, whenever this didn't look great or felt great, or the day that there's a trade request that goes public, anything like that, the Baltimore Ravens never in a moment said, we're sick of this guy. Every time you talk to them or anyone connected to them privately, it was the exact same thing. We want to make this work. Yeah. We're trying to make it work. We don't want to negotiate against ourselves.
Big winner was Eric DeCosta. It really was a big winner yesterday.
Look, Eric DeCosta personally really wanted this done. There is no debate about that. He personally wanted it done, and so it's a great week for them. Now, again, that doesn't guarantee anything. The AFC is still
guarantee a Super Bowl.
Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. The AFC is still a murderer's row when it comes to what you're going to have to be up against moving forward this season. And you need Lamar to stay healthy. You need him to play better in January. All those things go right back to being true. But that's a lot better than the thought of, Taylor Heineke being your quarterback. Way better for that to be the case than to have Taylor Heineke be under center. All right. Today's show is also brought to you by PressBoxOnline.com/offers. You're signing up. You're playing some baseball betting this spring for the first time. It's legal. You can do it on your phone here in the state of Maryland. Why wouldn't you take these offers and incentives that are available to you, like 5 second-chance bets from PointsBet when you deposit and bet your first $50? But the only way to take advantage of it is to go through PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Again, PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Click on the PointsBet logo and get signed up. Orioles got a nice win last night. We'll talk about that. And then the governor of the state of Maryland, Wes Moore, is scheduled to join us. That's all on the way. Stan the Fan is here. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports. As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's!
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The national championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Friday edition of the program. Stan the Fan is here. Stan, I know it was a bit of a different schedule for you this week as far as the Stan the Fan Variety Hour is concerned.
Yes.
You and Ross and Luke got together earlier in the week.
We got together on Monday, and then luckily John Colson. I feel bad. I've twice booked Pat Scarry, and then realized that one time I booked him against another guest that I double booked. I know Griffin never does that.
No, never.
Ever. That was
sometimes
a big
that's why he doesn't bother to book guests. Sometimes it's like, well, I didn't want to
double
running the
book,
risk.
Yeah. And then this week I realized I'd booked him, and
On
John Colson
the
said,
draft,
"By the way, I don't think you should do a show Thursday."
Well, as it turns out,
draft. Yeah.
There was a lot to talk about.
We'll have Pat Scarry on in about a month.
And we ended up getting together on Facebook Live yesterday. So if you missed that, you can go find it. Those shows available, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. And on Monday, you have Jack Graham, right? Is that Monday?
Jack Graham. We're going to talk to him about preparations to host their first game with Jackson Holiday at home.
That's right.
At Ripken Stadium.
He is the general manager of the Aberdeen Ironbirds. So Jackson Holiday is headed that way. Well, he already got the bump up, but they're headed home, and he'll be making his debut there. So a chance for you to check him out. Even closer to home, Jackson Holiday, the Orioles' #1 overall pick from a year ago. Stan, Felix Bautista made it interesting last night, but ultimately, as we said earlier, he settled things down. I don't know. Last night was such a weird game, and it's funny. I watched the entirety of the game. I was actually more interested
when the Orioles are good, you can't get me to watch the NFL draft until baseball's over. It's just my reality. The Orioles are good. That's what I want to watch.
Especially when it keyed up to the game was over and then the
plenty
Ravens
of time,
were
right?
within calling distance of.
It was a weird game. It was obviously a disappointing performance from Kyle Gibson, who seemed really rattled by one mistake by Ramon Arias in the field where he should have just thrown the ball to first base and gotten the out that he could get. Instead, tried to turn double play that wasn't there to be turned. It just seemed like he was kind of shaken from that point. He never felt right. I never thought he was going to be the 11 strikeout guy that we saw the last time out because that's not who he is. But, you know, he's here to be sort of a stabilizing factor, and last night was anything other than stabilizing. Obviously a good thing that the Orioles managed to pull it together, and it goes back. You and I talked when we saw each other privately on Saturday. You're in this tough spot where Tate and Givens are going to be here, and you're going to have to make moves, but all of a sudden, it's a really difficult sell to tell me that Bauman should be the guy going down when all he's done is just pitch brilliantly every time he's been out there this season. I get that you're trying to protect, and that they don't want to give up on Austin Voth. They don't want to give up on CNL Perez, but the evidence is piling up more and more that it's going to be a tough thing for you to say, well, we're going to send somebody down just because they have options versus sending someone down who simply hasn't been, or DFAing someone who hasn't been effective.
You know, when managers used to say these things have a way of resolving themselves sometimes, I used to kind of cringe at that, but the longer I've been around, they do. Just somebody will pop up with a back spasm that needs a few days.
I was about to say, I hope you're right, but I don't really actually hope that somebody pops
No, you don't
up.
hope that,
right.
but that keeps you from potentially losing someone.
Right.
So we'll see at the time when let's get them ready, and then we'll sort of figure that out.
Let me pose it to you this way. It's
ahead.
not today, but
Is there going to be an O-meter about that?
Right. If it were today,
yeah.
If today was day, they said, by the way, Givens and Tate, they're ready. 2 guys have to go. What would you do? You put your Mike Elias shades on.
Boy, you know, it's very interesting too, because you've back when I was younger, this would have never been a factor. I mean, to me, Keegan Aiken.
I think Keegan Aiken's the one obvious one.
He's the one obvious one. Just had a baby,
right?
You know, I think I'm not saying that. I've kiddingly said that Mike Elias would trade his mother if he could get a good, a good sleeper in the deal.
Right.
But not that his mom wasn't a good sleeper.
I don't know enough.
I'm
not
going
to.
She sleeps fine.
Yeah.
But all kidding aside, but I have a feeling that that's weighing on them. That this kid, so he's pitched a few bad innings. I don't know. Whoever has the options. To me, they're the ones that are in jeopardy, of being sent down.
So if it was you would still send Bauman down.
I possibly would send Bauman down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have both of them.
I understand the thought process. It's just a very difficult thing, I think, right now to say to your fans.
No question.
Like we are trying to win, but we're going to send down the guy that's doing much more to help us win than. Because we don't want to give up on Austin Voth. And I get the idea. Like, you don't want to say, hey, this 1 month of Austin Voth is definitively what it is.
Right.
But I think the flip side argument is, but do we know that he's like?
I mean, if I had a crystal ball and could see that CNL Perez was going to be as scattered as he's looked,
been.
I would probably, but to me,
his talent suggests somebody would give him a shot.
Somebody would immediately give him a shot and might very easily turn him around because you're talking about such a small sample size.
I hear you. I hear you. It's been a good 24 hours here in the state of Maryland, Stan, and obviously I think this man is going to say.
What does this have to do with the state of Maryland?
I think this guy is going to say campaign promise kept, I believe is what he's joining us to say. He is, of course, the governor of the state of Maryland and a former football player himself at Johns Hopkins, so we'll make him put his analyst hat on today. He is Governor Wes Moore, and he's with us now here on GCR. Governor, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. It is obviously a fun day to be talking Baltimore sports. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Glenn and Stan, this is my pleasure. I tell you, it's always a good time to be talking sports in Baltimore, but these past few weeks have been special.
Yeah,
this is a really exciting time for us. It really is.
You weren't out somewhere like shotgunning beers again last night, were you, after what we saw on opening day? There wasn't, after you got the news, you weren't running over to the neighborhood watering hole to try to find some Ravens fans to shotgun a beer with.
Listen, of course, we're celebrating. I mean, if you think of what has happened over, just even over these past few weeks, we have a team, in terms of a baseball team, that has one of the smallest payrolls in baseball, yet is the second best team in all of baseball right now. And then on the football side, we just signed the franchise. We're showing that Baltimore is ready to win, and right now. And so, yes, I've been celebrating out here at the folks a little bit.
I don't blame you. The rest of us are too, so I don't blame you at all. Governor, just I know it's we're having fun with it, but maybe you can give some context to it. Can you describe the value of Lamar Jackson, of the attention that it brings, the primetime games, the audiences that come in? Can you, away from those of us that only think through a sports prism, can you describe to the people of this region what Lamar Jackson means to the state of Maryland, to tourism, to things along those lines?
It's not only we're not only talking about something that over the long term is going to have an impact of just hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Because he is prime time, and you do not get a league MVP and someone who is really the most exciting player in all of football around very often, and he's ours, and he's going to be our quarterback for the foreseeable future. So it's going to draw attention. It's going to draw people here. It's going to make sure that the stadium is filled up. And when people are here at the stadium, they're going out to restaurants and they're staying in hotels and they're experiencing the city and learning to love the city. Because one thing I believe deeply about our city is I'm a big Baltimore booster. And as you get to know Baltimore, you love Baltimore. But it's the psychological boost, right? It's the fact that we produce winners here. And I know the obstacles that Baltimore has facing and things that we all have to move aggressively and head on to be able to address. But the thing that I also know is that we are proud to be Baltimoreans. We are proud of our city, and we're proud of the fact that we produce winners. And that's exactly what Lamar Jackson is going to help us to do. So it's an economic benefit, but it's also psychological benefit.
Governor, I was just wondering, I know you came on ostensibly to talk about Lamar Jackson, but the Ravens are a psychological booster for the team. The team that really is so important to the city of Baltimore
day-to-day basis,
on a day-to-day basis for 6 months a year is the Baltimore Orioles. How important are they to the renaissance of a new Baltimore?
They are so important because, first of all, when you just think about things like the ballpark, right? I mean, 30 years ago, Camden Yards revolutionized baseball and baseball ballparks. And now we have a unique opportunity to do the same thing again. We're also talking about a team that is just fun to watch. The beauty of the Orioles right now is not just that they're playing really well, is that we do it the right way. We're not the type of team that's going to go out and just, buy a whole bunch of talent and just try to buy everyone's best players. This is homegrown. And when you're watching folks like Rutschman, you're watching folks like Henderson, you're looking at the fact that seemingly every single night, the Orioles have a new hero of the night and a new person that hits the game-winning run or a new person that pitches, 7 innings of shutout baseball or whatever the case is. We're doing it the right way because this is a team. And so I'm thrilled about the fact that not only do we have a team that I think we're going to be rooting for a long time, I'm convinced that we're going to have some World Series. We're going to have some World Series games played in Baltimore this year.
Ooh, okay, that's bold. That is, man. See, now we have to hold you that guy. You know how this works.
Is the governor allowed to bet on sports?
That's a good question too. I assume that's the case. Governor Wes Moore is with us. With that in mind, and then I promise we'll come back to Lamar in a second. But let's just say you knew somebody who was doing a hack radio bit, and I had a Lamar-O-Meter that was over my shoulder for the last couple of months, and every day I was updating it with my confidence level that Lamar Jackson was going to be the quarterback, and now I've got to retire that because we now can put it at 100%. If maybe my next meter was like a stadium lease meter, what number would you suggest that I start that meter at, that we're going to get a lease done and announced, and we're going to have a reason to be? Today would be a hell of a day, Governor, with everything going on. It'd be a hell of a day for that. But if you had to suggest a number for me to start that meter at, that we're going to get something done this year, what number would you say to put it at?
I say for anyone who is betting against us, don't bet against us. I think we have shown that we know how to get big things done here. And the beautiful thing is, I think we're walking into a sense that we and the Orioles are very much aligned. I want the Orioles here I want the Orioles here for the next generation and generations to come, playing baseball in Baltimore. And that's what they want to. So we are very much aligned on what the goals are. We're very much aligned on where we're working to get to, and we are working diligently day and night to be able to make sure that happens. I mean, it shouldn't be lost on anybody that the first trip that I took, as the first trip out of the state that I took as governor, was down to Florida and to go spend time with the Orioles during spring training. I'm taking this very personally. I'm leaning in personally, and don't bet against us getting this done.
I like the sounds of it.
Just how friendly are you with John now? I mean, it seems like there is a real, genuine trust and warmth between the two of you. How did that get started, Governor?
Yeah. Well, I've known John for a while, and in fact, I actually wrote a book called 5 Days where I actually profiled John, and this was years ago, years before I ever thought about running for elected office. And so I think it's been nice being able to go into this with not just a connection, but with friendship of someone who I know we have the same goals. And the goal is that we are going to make sure that we have Orioles baseball in Baltimore for generations to come. And so it's good, the fact that, we're able to navigate this and change the tone a little bit. And I think it's with them. I think it's also with what we're seeing with Rick, where that I think we're to stop into the altar, where we know that in order for progress to happen, it means we got to work together, and we need to work collaboratively, and everyone needs to be heard and seen. And that's just the approach that I've taken to the work.
Just another minute or two here with Governor Wes Moore. He is a very busy man, but it's an exciting day. Governor, obviously you and I had a couple conversations well before you were in this world. You are a football player. You were a wide receiver. You played at Johns Hopkins, so I'm going to ask you to put your analyst hat on. Lamar Jackson signed, bought in. The Ravens went out and got Odell Beckham, and they now draft a wide receiver in the first round in Zay Flowers. How you feel about this Ravens offense moving forward?
We showed, but not even just with Lamar. We show we're serious now when you go and you sign Odell Beckham, who has a lot in the tank left. You go and you sign Zay Flowers, and let me be clear, Zay Flowers is a boss. I mean, this guy is he is a serious player, and Lamar Jackson has some serious assets and tools downfield that can spread out the offense a little bit and make us the most potent offense in the entire NFL. And so I'm really excited. The fact that Ravens are not just, these aren't just good moves. Ravens are very much in win now mentality, which
unfortunately, I think we're going to – oh, man, that's a shame. That is a real shame. I was enjoying that conversation with the governor.
You're still there, Governor?
Unfortunately, we lost the phone signal there. We'll see if that's what it is. I know he only had a few minutes that he could – you can eat. All right, we'll let him finish up then. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm happy to do that. As we're happy to make time for the governor. As always, this isn't a political show. It's a sports show, and we've always been happy to welcome on everybody from across the political spectrum that's in a role here. We'll try to wrap up with the governor real quick. Governor, can you hear us okay?
I hear you. I'm sorry about that. We're here in the Eastern Shore right now, and this is more evidence of the investments we need to start making in broadband and phone access.
Well said.
Hey, let me just get one last quick question in. You played at Hopkins, which I had forgotten. That means you played for the great late Jim Margraf.
Yep.
A life lesson that you may have learned playing football for the man?
And I got to tell you, so first, he was one of the most important people in my life. He is someone who he didn't just teach you how to play the game. He taught you how to play the game the right way. And it's funny, I actually never played football until I got to Hopkins. I played basketball. And Mars, as we all called him, came to a basketball game, and he saw me play basketball. And after the game, he came up to me and he said, "Have you ever played football before?" He said, "You have good hands and good speed and good size." And the next day, he had me go run the 40-yard dash and the vertical leap test and run a couple patterns. And he said, "Would you ever consider playing football?" That conversation and that interaction ended up becoming one of the most important mentorship relationships that I had in my life. And I think there were so many lessons that I got from Mars, but one of the big things that I always took from him was, there was something that he always had us chant at the end of our huddles, and it was pride and poise, right? Pride and poise, and it was this idea that you always have to be proud of who you are, of where you're from. It's the reason that you are never going to catch me not smiling when I'm talking about Baltimore. I'm not smiling when I'm talking about Maryland. I'm proud of where I'm from. I'm proud of who I am. But it's also poise. And that's one thing he always talked about, where in the game, there are going to be times when you're going to get flustered. There are going to be times when you're going to, when the game is going to start feeling like it's moving fast or it's getting out of hand. And he said, and that's when champions are formed, because what you have to do is, in all those times when it's most complicated, show poise. In all those times when it's most complicated, show calm, because that's how you're going to win. And so it's something that, he taught us when we were in the field that I still carry with me to this day: pride and poise, pride and poise. And that's how we won where we were over at Homewood Field. And that's why I'm excited about the work that we're doing already in the first 100 days, where, it's promises made, promises kept, and promises delivered for the people of the state. But it's because we move with pride, and it's because we move with poise.
He was a great man, Jim
Great
Margraf.
answer.
He was unbelievable.
He was a great man.
Wes Moore, Mr. Governor, really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man, a lot of things to do. I know it's an exciting day, however, for everybody. Thank you for hopping on with us. We'd love to chat again down the road.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. Go O's, go Ravens. This is big. We're winning.
No doubt. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, guys.
Wes Moore making his first appearance in a while on this show.
Force of nature.
What's that?
He's
a remarkable human. There's no question about that. He's a very powerful. If you never read the other Wes Moore, whatever you feel about politics, and I'm not trying to sway you anyway, because I'm a very moderate person, but if anything that you feel, well before Wes Moore was ever a politician, I saw him on Colbert one night and said, I was just enraptured by the story, and immediately was like, I want to talk to this guy, and I read the book, and it just blew me away. As a person, he is remarkable. Now, he's got, things to do. Clearly, the next thing is the lease, right? Like, the next thing is getting everything figured out, and what it looks like and what it means for the city. That's very high on the list, as well as all the other things that are non-sports related that clearly matter a great deal to being the governor of the state of Maryland.
So do I have a minute to ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay. I bumped into Scott Wyckoff the other day.
Scotty Y.
Scotty Y. And, since my episode on February 6th where I had the TIA, been dealing a lot with my health and getting clear on that. He suddenly, I was with him last week, and he starts talking about the Preakness and about how this whole thing is flipped. I must have missed the whole thing.
Yeah,
and I was going to get into it with the governor, but we were not short on time.
I think there will be opportunities for us to do that again.
But so now I understand that it's flipped, and the idea is now being put out there of a total redo of Pimlico.
Well, the idea now is that Laurel will go away. The idea now is that
wild.
Laurel Park would be gone.
Yep.
It kind of happened quietly because it's not. The deal. It's not that the deal fell apart. It's that the cost of the deal changed so dramatically during COVID,
right?
Because of the cost of everything, of
construction,
wood, all those things, that it became untenable. And so
to do this for 12 days,
right?
Or something like that.
So there had to be new considerations given. Nothing is done yet. I was actually just talking to Brandon Scott about this recently, but there is still quite the confidence that Pimlico will be taken care of. The momentum right now is at the cost of Laurel Park. The momentum, nothing's finished, nothing's done, but the momentum is that once upon a time, remember, it was going to be Pimlico that was going to go by the wayside because the Stronach group wanted it to be Laurel Park would be their hub for racing.
Right.
It's now leaning towards it being the exact opposite.
That's what I was okay.
That Pimlico would get the refurbishments, and that there would be no more Laurel Park, and that the racing, everything would move towards Pimlico moving forward.
Okay.
But
that's the way he depicted it to me. But I didn't have that much time with him to dig into.
And he's certainly very plugged in, obviously. Scotty Y is as plugged in as it gets when it comes to the horse racing scene in the state of Maryland. There's no doubt about that. Look, that's unfortunate too, right? Like I don't. Yeah. It's not a good thing, but obviously for us selfishly, it's a far better scenario than the original scenario, which would be the other way around. And, I don't know. I have a lot more to say about it. But
it seems like with somebody like Governor Moore and his emphasis and pride in Baltimore City and wanting to do things, this can only be a good thing for Baltimore City.
Again, to take nothing away from the former governor, who I like personally a great deal, I would say that
I like Governor Hogan, too.
I don't think his priority was ever that what's best for Baltimore is what's best for the state. I just don't believe that he felt that way. And, again, there's room for there to be opinions about that. But a lot of governors would tell you that what's best for our biggest city, what's best for our tourist destination, what's best for that is what's
best for the state.
And maybe Governor Hogan would say, I felt the same way, which is why I cared so deeply about Ocean City. And you could tell he made decision after decision after decision about Ocean City. And he said, I think that's our best tourist destination. That might be what he was trying to say to us, publicly, that he just didn't say it that way. Most governors would tell you that what's best for the biggest city in the state is what's best for the state. That's our best hope of driving, tourism dollars, or driving revenue.
Especially a state the size of Maryland.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah, far different in a place like Florida or Texas. California, right, 100%. All right. Still a lot to do on the program today. Stan the Fan is here. We're going to find
a blockbuster show today.
It's been a good show. We've been having fun today. It's it's a fun
any day.
Right,
you get Drew Forrester and the governor.
The two of them at this. Imagine if Drew had been sitting in on the show and the governor called in. Actually, I'd say that. I definitely had governors call into Drew's show in the past, and I never knew exactly where it was headed. I never knew exactly where we were going when that would be the case. Today's show is also brought to you by, this great contest that we're running at PressBoxOnline.com/contest, where you can see all of the region's minor league baseball teams. Get 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams, an Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25, and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. You must be 18 or older to enter. The sweepstakes ends June 14th, but go sign up right now, PressBoxOnline.com/contests, in order to win. Daniel Luque was Zay Flowers' high school coach down in Florida. We're going to find out more about the Ravens' first-round pick next. Stands here. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holiday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip, that first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
We continue along here on a Friday edition of the program. Stan the Fan Charles in studio with us, hanging out. Today's show is also brought to you by Birdland Sports, where if you want your own Homer hose or a cool T-shirt that's designed, it's the O's, but the O is the hose, which is a lot of fun. You can go find those right now at birdlandsports.com. For Birds fans, by Birds fans, Birdland Sports. Boy, we have had a morning, Stan. I barely had time to breathe during the course of this program.
And for some reason, I didn't know what we were doing, so I just said, I'll go in, but
right.
I don't know what we're doing. And
well, in fairness,
I missed a text that we were going to have Creed Willems.
Right. Unlike some mornings, we decided to wait and see what happened in the draft and make some decisions and booking based around what happens in the draft. And with that in mind, our next guest who's joining us this morning, obviously, I'm sure is now a huge Baltimore Ravens fan because he was the head coach for Zay Flowers down in South Florida.
Back in the day
at the university school. He has coached Daniel Luque, and he is with us this morning here on GCR. Coach, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. It's great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking the time, and congratulations.
Thank you for having us on the show, and we're extremely proud of Zay, man. It was a special kid.
Boy, we keep hearing more and more about what a special kid he is. I want to go back, because Stan and I were talking about this earlier. Zay wasn't a kid that maybe had everybody on the planet banging down his door, right? What was the story of Zay when you first got to know him as a football player, and why did so many people miss on what a special talent this young man was?
Well, Zay Flowers was one of a trio of kids that came into the middle school who were highly talented players. The first one was Kenny McIntosh, who won 2 national championships running back out of University of Georgia. And the other one was Josh Sanguinetti, who was playing safety at Indiana. And those three were really good friends together. And, after the freshman and sophomore seasons, Kenny and Josh were recruited by 40 Division I schools. And Zay was he was a little bit undersized. He played running back at the time, but, he really felt like he was an oddball out of the mix. And he decided by the second semester of his sophomore year to really devote himself in the weight room. He gained about 15 pounds over that summer and put himself positioned to be a two-way starter for us. And it's been uphill ever since.
When did you have the sense that, this kid could do this at a higher level, maybe even at the highest level? When was the first time that you said to yourself, this isn't just a good football player, this kid might be an NFL player?
Well, no, I mean, a lot of schools passed him up, and he only had 2 Power 5 offers by his senior year, which is NC State and Boston College. And Boston College was the first one on that list. And I knew that a lot of people were passing up on him because of his 5'10" size, but he plays like he's 6'2". You know what I mean?
Coach Luque, I'm wondering, knowing how much a high school coach knows about somebody's family, could you talk a little bit about where Zay was in terms of, I understand he's got 13 siblings. Was he the youngest? Was he the oldest? Somewhere in the middle?
He was somewhere in the middle, upper pack. He had a few older siblings, one, unfortunately, who passed away his junior year, and I remember going to his house at 9 o'clock at night, and that kind of has motivated Zay. You know, not only is he a big brother, but he's became a father figure. You know, to his sibling, to his nephew, and you know, he put that on his chest, you know, and carried that throughout his career.
And how old was he when his mom passed away so early?
I don't recall that. You know,
Okay.
I try not to. You know, it's a very touchy subject, so I never really went into how old he was when his mom passed away. But I know he passed away at a young age. Yeah.
Coach Daniel Luque, who was Zay Flowers high school coach, is with us here on GCR. Coach, when you talk about him, the person, right, and it's really come out, obviously, what a unique individual. Those things you talk about, him taking on the responsibility of being an older brother and a father figure, an uncle, things like that. What is it that the Baltimore Ravens are getting in the person, Zay Flowers?
They're gonna get somebody who is the ultimate overachiever. He is gonna find a way. He's gonna will himself to not only getting open, but not only making his team better, but just setting the example, rising the bar. Like I said, playing like he's 6'2", 6'3", just a major chip on his shoulder. You know, I'm just thrilled and super excited to see what he's going to do, and especially with you guys signing Lamar Jackson back. I mean, you guys got a heck of a 1-2 punch. I'm super excited.
I was wondering, you know, being this is South Florida, we saw at one point that Zay was down there working out with guys like Antonio Brown, and I did wonder if at any point maybe he crossed paths with Lamar, and hopefully we'll get that answer here soon. But man, does it feel like it's an even more unique story for everybody down that way that he ends up teaming up with Lamar now here in Baltimore?
Well, we kind of watched Lamar over there at Boynton High School, which is not too far from University School. It's about 25 minutes up the road. But, you know, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, these kids down here, they love and breathe football, and, you know, they're going to do something special together, you know, especially with Odell Beckham joining the team too as well. I'm excited to see that.
Do you have, like, if somebody said, hey, there's one game, there's one moment, there's one play, something like that you stands out most from the time that you were with Zay Flowers, one time that you were just like, oh, my God, I can't believe that kid just did that. Is there anything in particular that jumps out at you?
I'm going to tell you this. So his senior year, in the game to go to the state championship game, he didn't play that game because he took off his helmet literally a yard and a half before he exited the sideline, and they threw a penalty on him, and he was ejected after that game. So we lost 31-30 without arguably our best player. And he told me, he says, Coach, that thrived me in college, and I'm going to make everybody pay and feel my pain for not being able to play in that state semifinals game.
That's cool.
And you know what? He hasn't let anyone down since.
How amazed are you at how much better a football player he is today than when you coached him, Coach Luque?
I'm going to give you a similar comparison. Steve Smith. So I played with Steve Smith in high school. I've actually known Steve Smith, senior, since middle school.
Wow.
And they have very similarities in regards to defying the odds and not allowing what people may say limitations are, stop them from what they need to do. You know what I mean? And be able to achieve and overachieve. So, you know, that comparison of those two guys, you know, and for him to get drafted by Baltimore, it's pretty unique and it's pretty special. And, you know, like I said, I'm just overly thrilled and think that, and I know he's going to do a great job down there with you guys.
Boy, we like all of the sounds of this. We're good. There's nothing that you said that is scaring us away in any way. Coach, tell me about yourself. I know you moved on from university school. Tell me about what it is that you're doing these days, and is there a chance we might be seeing you in Baltimore here in the fall?
No, absolutely. I went down to visit Zay up in they played against Clemson, so I had two of my players, an offensive lineman and Zay, go at it up in Boston, and it was a cold game, and I was glad to see, you know, at least one of his games. But I'm excited to get down to Maryland. I know a little bit about the D.C. Maryland area. I went to James Madison University, so it'll be great to kind of come back. I know about Dulles Airport, so, you know, we're going to make a trip down there for sure. And I'm still at university school, so we're all pumped up about him, and, you know, him being our first round draft pick in the school, and everyone's super proud of him and super excited.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Coach, where can we shout you out on Twitter, on Instagram? Where can people be giving you a follow?
Same one. I think you guys did follow me on the Twitter.
That's
Uncle Luke.
Uncle Luke. LUQ. Uncle Luke LUQ. That's the Twitter.
That's it.
Awesome. Give him
That's
a follow
my Twitter.
there.
Yep.
Coach, congratulations. I don't know what else there is to say. It's an exciting day. Everybody in Baltimore's fired up. It's a great day. We can't wait to see what's next for Zay, and we really appreciate you hopping on to tell us some stories about him, give us some insight. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes.
You got it, boss. Have a good one. Go Ravens.
Coach
Go
Daniel
Ravens.
Luque. Coach Daniel Luque from University School down in South Florida. Appreciate him. Didn't know that story, that he wasn't allowed to
with
play.
Steve Smith.
That's
great.
Great context. Great context. And obviously that's the comparison that's being made over and over and over again is Zay Flowers to Steve Smith, which again is
I wonder if Steve Smith thinks that.
we happen to know that because there was a video that Steve Smith did a couple of weeks ago all about that. So, yeah, there is some validity there from the man himself. Of course, Steve Smith also thought the world of James Prochet a year ago, so I'm going to maybe, ease up
Pump
on
the brakes
a little bit,
tiny
just a little bit. Hey, your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com bring you today's program. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Would you be okay with the Ravens moving on from Patrick Queen now if it could net them an additional draft pick? Would you be all right with that?
I'm so out of touch with where they are cap-wise. It's not just the ammunition of having more picks. If all things were equal, I don't like the idea of giving up Patrick Queen. I think he's really come into his own as a player. But if they already know, well, yeah, we can afford him this year,
right?
But we got to look ahead. It would help us big picture. Then I guess that's the guy who's most,
I think the question to me becomes, Stan, like if you could still pick up his fifth-year option,
yeah,
and that's the question they have to ask themselves, and the fact that here we are and they're still not committed to it makes you think that there's some concern about whether or not that will happen. The deadline, I believe, is Tuesday, correct, to pick up the fifth-year option? I think that's the deadline for this. But if they could still have him for not just this year but the following year, whatever you're trading off in value, so if you lose him as a free agent, it's a compensatory third, right? Whatever you're trading off in value, I'm presuming.
Monday's the deadline.
Monday's the deadline. Monday's the deadline. May 1st. Presumably, you're getting a high level. Presumably, if he hits the market in 2 years, if he plays as well as we saw him play this season, he's getting a significant contract. And so you're getting a compensatory third for that. Is the difference in what you can get in draft compensation worth the difference of 2 years of what you would expect to be a high-level play next to Roquan Smith? Like, that, to me, always becomes the question. So, for an early second-round pick for one of these cornerbacks that's still there, a Keely Ringo from Georgia, I think everybody is convinced that Joey Porter Jr. is going to be the first pick of the second round and is going to go to Pittsburgh. But if for
there's
whatever,
nobody we can jump in front of to
get but if for whatever reason, like a lot of people thought Joey Porter was going to the Steelers with their first pick, right?
Yeah.
If for some reason it's not him and those guys continue to linger on the board, if there's your chance to move up early, is that worth the trade-off of losing 2 years of Patrick Queen? Maybe. I can make the argument for that. But if you're talking about adding an early to mid third round pick,
right?
I don't think you can argue that that's worth the trade-off of 2 years of Patrick Queen.
I would agree with that.
Before you end up getting a compensatory third anyway. So.
Again, all things equal, I love the idea of Queen being back on this football
team. The two of them together were a wrecking crew, were monsters. Right. And in fairness, it is forgotten that Patrick Queen was playing well even before Roquan Smith arrived. Now, after Roquan Smith arrived,
it was a whole different level.
100%. Yeah. But Patrick Queen this season, on the whole, was playing well.
He bore out the fact that he was a number one talent.
Yeah, it took a little while, and it was frustrating that it took a little while. And again, I don't know. It might very well be that the Ravens have just said, yes, all that being said, that's all well and good. We can't ultimately pay 2 inside linebackers and pay $52 million a year to our quarterback. Like, we're not going to be able to do that long term. And I get it, like, if that's the decision that they've made. But I just don't get making that decision when you still have 2 years at more reasonable costs of Patrick Queen before you would have to pay him. I'm not in a race to do it. If you get the right price, I get it. I completely understand it, particularly given your need at cornerback, and that for the most part you trust that you could put some other guys next to Roquan Smith and think that he would also help raise their game too. I just don't want to do it for the sake of doing it. I think that's where I am at with it. I think you and I are in agreement about that.
Yeah.
All right. Still to come. We're going to head to Delmarva, make our first trip of the year to catch up with the Shorebirds. Creed Willems.
Are we hopping on the bus?
Well, maybe we can get that Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder and that $50 gas card from Royal Farms that you can get at PressBoxOnline.com/contests.
And then we drive in my Toyota.
Right,
my
and
Prius.
we head down to Purdue Stadium to check out. No, he's going to come join us on the phone is what's going to happen. Creed Willems is off to a red-hot start. We're going to chat with him next. Dan the Fan Charles is here. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holiday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? AJ Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
Stan, do you remember the day that you and I attempted to call a horse race at Pimlico years ago? I remember you,
Gary
Steiner was over there, Quint Kesnick was over there.
And
Quint
did the best
Quint
job.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Quint could call horse races.
Yes.
The rest of us, not so much. Not probably going to be our vocation at any point.
You know what's fascinating about calling a race? I think it's one of the most difficult is that it's not just doing one race a day.
Yes.
It's doing 9
and then
or
turn
11
around
or 12
and doing another 100%.
Yeah.
Turning right around and doing another race. It was the most incompetent I've ever felt doing anything. Like I was so unprepared. I blame Gaffigan mostly, right? Like when he rolled this thing out there. By the way, I think we found out later it was actually Quint's idea to begin with. Like Quint was just bugging Gaffigan about, hey, let's do something like this. I was utterly unprepared. Like, I had no – and Quint was actually trying to help me that day. He was taking me over to the screen, like, this is what you should be watching for. Here are the silks. There was also, if you remember correctly, there was like a music festival set up in the middle of the infield.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult. They were like, here are your binoculars. And I'm like, that doesn't help. There's a massive stage in the way. It was awful. So this weekend I'm doing the NCAA Division III Volleyball Championships, which are being hosted by Stevenson University.
Right.
We're very proud. You probably saw some ads that were being run
So
at
you're doing the
PressBoxOnline.com.
play-by-play.
No. Now, I've done volleyball play-by-play.
Okay.
But every time I do, I always feel very small because I still don't fully understand
the terminology.
All of the terminology. I always feel very small in those moments because I know what I'm watching, but I don't really know what I'm. You know what I mean? Like,
or you don't know how to. You know what you're watching, but you don't know how to
exactly how to convey it. Exactly right. So I kind of sometimes I feel small in those moments. So I'm just doing PA for that this weekend. It's a fun weekend out at Stevenson. They partnered up with us a little bit to get the word out, and so I'm looking forward to being a part of that. It'll stream through the NCAA website, and 2 games tonight, championship on Sunday out at Stevenson. Another major event for Brett Adams and his team out there. And
They're doing an amazing job.
That's all they do is major events.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a chance to do anything, he says, yeah, sign us up.
I was out there 2 weeks ago for the cutting of the
ribbon ceremony
of the East Campus.
Yep.
You know, it's pretty amazing what they've done out there.
It's remarkable. There's no question
and it was
about
great
that.
to see Dr. Manning. Not that I'm not friendly with Elliot.
Right, Dr. Hirschman. Yeah.
But Kevin Manning had the vision, real vision for what sports could do to a university that size.
No question about it. All right, Stan the Fan is here. It's a Friday edition of the program. A couple of things real quick that we haven't gotten to. Have you been watching the NBA playoffs at all, Stan?
Yes.
Who has – I've said it at the beginning, and I still feel that way today. It's the least I've ever felt confident about knowing
who's going to win the whole thing.
100%. And here we are deep into the first round. I'm a Suns fan. I feel zero confidence about the Suns, who won 4-1, but against no Kawhi and no Paul George, and looked terrible, looked lost, have no communication between, like the Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Devin Booker dynamic. It
just hasn't happened.
They haven't figured out who's supposed to be doing what in what moment, who's supposed to be the alpha when.
If they figure it out, they win the whole thing.
If they figure it out, yeah, okay.
I'm not sure they will.
It's they had so little. They had 8 games together before the playoffs began. I'm not surprised that they're struggling to figure it out because they didn't have that much time to try to figure it out. Miami, the 8th seed in the East, if Jimmy Butler plays like this, I don't know who they can't beat. No. It was one thing that they won a game without Giannis playing, then all of a sudden Giannis comes back and nothing changes. Jimmy Butler has been a revelation.
He's unbelievable. He's a great player.
It's bonkers how good he's been.
Yeah.
Do you have any feel for who ends up winning the title right now?
I've got to be honest. I don't. I really don't. I went into it thinking that the Celtics had a shot.
Mm-hmm.
But Philly had a shot in the East.
And you would probably argue that Philly is the team that looked the best in the first round, right? Yeah. But they weren't, who
and now all of a sudden the Knicks are, the Knicks really dominated Cleveland, who won about 8 or 9 more games than the Knicks during the season. Julius Randle is insane.
He's been a revelation. There's no question about that. He's been completely legitimate. And Jalen Brunson has proven to be worth every penny that they spent on him when people thought it was too much. Like, he has proven to be that guy.
And then you go out west, it's crazy. The Lakers are, with suddenly we talk about the threesome of Booker, Chris Paul, and Kevin Durant. The Lakers now have a threesome in Reeves, Davis, and LeBron. Still plays at a pretty...
Davis hasn't had a great, playoff series.
But he's capable.
Sure. It's still in moments you see that.
But then I'm watching the Warriors. The Warrior-King series is very intense.
Oh, it's been the best series by far. Yeah. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Chance for the Warriors to end up closing them out and complete the comeback from down 2. It'd be the first time ever that the Warriors would have won a series when they were down 2-0. And you just can't deny them. You can't.
I'm a big Warriors fan. I mean, I
really?
just can't. I really enjoy.
Is it just enjoying the way that they play?
Yeah.
Just the Steve?
Yeah.
What drew you to the Warriors?
I got to be honest with you. My friendship with Boogie.
Yeah. Boogie Wineglass.
He's just a tremendous Warriors fan.
Really?
And was
never knew that
the last 5 or 6 years, and it's so I have that to talk to him about. So I watch them. They're just an incredible team.
Look, they're a lot of fun. I've said that over and over again. I'm not a fan necessarily, but they are so much fun to watch play the game that I do find myself drawn to. I hope I get to watch more Warriors moving. Like, I wanted to root for Sacramento because of Kevin Huerter and Alex Len, but I don't know. It's just I don't want to be denied the opportunity to watch the Warriors more frequently.
And, one thing about the Lakers, in LeBron's career, which has now spanned, Cleveland, Miami, back to Cleveland, and the Lakers, I don't recall him missing an opportunity to close out a series that way.
Barkley made a good point after the game the other night where he said, "Look, man, this is 38. Like you have a brilliant game. You have a game where you have to exert that much energy. You cannot be ready 2 days later. You can't be.
Yeah, the fact that you're LeBron doesn't mean you.
And there was a flight involved too across the country. He was like, dude, this is when we can deny and we can say, look how well he's playing at such an advanced age, but you can't deny reality. Like, you can't make that go away. And I thought that was a really good point from Barkley. Like, I'm not worried about LeBron. I think he's going to have another good game. But as much energy as he put out in Game 4, you were always going to get this in Game 5.
And then we're leaving out probably the best coached team in the entire playoffs, the Nuggets.
We're just so used to them collapsing in the playoffs that we're just kind of expecting it. Let's head down to Delmarva, Stan the Fan, where this man is off to an unbelievable start to the season. All he's doing, OPSing 1349, hitting 422 with 5 home runs in 45 at-bats. That'll play. I think that would work. We welcome back into the program Creed Willems from the Delmarva Shorebirds, who's with us now here on GCR. Creed, it's Glenn and Stan. It's great to catch up. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate y'all having me.
Dude, what does it feel like to be hitting over 445 at-bats into your season and just doing everything right at the plate?
Oh, it feels awesome. I think coming off of last year, I had a bunch of stuff I needed to work on throughout the off season. So I really like dove into it and kind of embraced the challenge. So it was just one of those, trying to focus on stuff I struggled with last year and try to build on that. And then as we got to spring training, just kind of picking it up and just talking to some of our hitting coaches and hitting coordinators, kind of what they had to say, and just kind of adopt a new approach and mindset going up to the plate. And I think it's definitely helped out. And I think just I have confidence. The confidence is back. I feel comfortable and feeling relaxed in the box. So everything's kind of just clicking right now. So.
Creed, how much of that was the mental aspects of the game? But did I read that you really worked really hard at being in better shape physically as well? Is that the case?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. This off season, I talked to some of our strength coaches and got on a meal plan, and coming back, lost quite a bit of weight and just feel so much better. Feel more comfortable with myself, whether it's catching at first base, in the box, everything just feels so much better now.
Boy.
So, I mean, it was one of those things that, without our strength staff in the organization, it would have been a lot more difficult, but they went about it in a great way and really helped me out a lot with that.
I'm just curious, was the physical part of it last year and some of the struggles you had last year, that took a lot of self-reflection, that you said, hey, I got to take this more seriously? Is that sort of where it came from?
Yeah, that's definitely where it came from. And plus, so I was out for 5 weeks last year with an elbow injury. And during that time, it was difficult because, I wasn't playing as much, so I put on some weight. And then, after the year, I was like, all right, we got to do something about it. So I definitely dove into it this offseason, got on a meal plan, did cardio every day, whether it was going for a swim, going to the pool, like swimming laps, or, you know, going out on a run or riding the bike or whatever. So I really dove into that. And I think just kind of going through that and how I felt last year at the end of the season, I was like, all right, we need to, you know, slim down some so at the end of this year, like, body feels good and everything like that. So that definitely went into play.
How much total weight did you lose, Creed?
27 pounds.
Wow.
That's a good chunk of weight.
And you feel it even like when you're not playing baseball. Do you feel like, dude? I've gone through a little bit of that. Not like you, because I don't have quite as much muscle as you do. But like, do you feel it even in the day to day, or if you go play golf or something like that?
Yeah, it's a huge difference whether I'm on the golf course with some buddies or whether I'm just walking around like with the family, like whatever we're doing. Like, I just feel so much better. Everything just feels better. Like, it's not like, oh crap, my feet hurt or whatever it is. So it's changed everything for sure.
Creed, I'm wondering, because I had not a similar experience like losing that much weight at one clip, but the swimming. Did you know how to swim for exercise, or was it something you needed to learn how to do? Because when I was like 30, I had my first back surgery, and I had some complications, and when I came out of it, I knew I needed to swim, but I didn't really know how to swim for exercise.
So it's kind of weird. I used to swim whenever I was younger, and then I have some friends that were on the swim team.
Okay.
So like I kind of got some like insight from them, but I think it was kind of a new thing for me just because like whenever I used to do it, it was for like competitions and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Whereas now it's more for exercise. So I think there definitely is a difference that I had to kind of learn.
I mean,
so
keep it up. I guess that's what we need to say.
Just
now.
my point is that swimming is such a wonderful exercise.
Yep.
Because you're not pounding your
sure.
spine. You know.
Yep. Creed Willems is with us. Yeah, go ahead, Creed.
Yeah, it was great. Just because, like, whenever you get out of the pool, it's like, you know, it's not like your legs are sore from running or stuff's tight. Like, you just got a really good workout, and it was full body. So I enjoy it a lot.
It's cool.
For sure.
The Shorebirds are home this weekend. Tonight they got a scheduled poster giveaway. Fireworks night and scout night tomorrow on Sunday. They're celebrating Sherman, their mascot's birthday, with a party with a lot of the other local mascots, as well as Kids Run the Bases. You can find out more about all these events and get your tickets by going to theshorebirds.com. Creed Willems is with us here on GCR. Creed, you mentioned you've been playing some first base this year as well. And look, you're 19. We're a ways away from this being an issue. But I remember talking to you when you got drafted. You know, there is kind of a guy that's sort of got the catcher position semi-locked down in this organization. Are they talking to you about the idea of, hey, we want to do more at first base, more, you know, somewhere else? Or is it just, hey, we're not even going to think about that problem is not real, and until it's real, we're not even going to consider it yet?
Yeah, so, I mean, they've talked about me playing first base, but it's not been one of those things like it's set in stone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like playing first base. I like catching. So it's one of those, like, whatever gets me in the lineup is I'm perfectly fine with. Like, for me, I just want to play baseball. Like, that's what matters. So wherever I am, like, wherever I'm playing or whatever, that's all that matters.
Creed, I'm wondering, I got to ask you, I know we're having you on to talk about yourself a little bit, but you played your teammate of Jackson Hollidays, who just got promoted to Aberdeen. How insane a player, how good is he?
Oh, he's unbelievable. And, I mean, watching him kind of go about his work, like he goes about it as a big leaguer, which is definitely one thing you can see he gets from his dad.
Yep.
But yeah, everything he goes about everything as a big leaguer. And also, like, off the field, like, we were roommates, so you kind of get to see another side of him. But I absolutely love that kid. The dude's going to be an absolute star, and there's no question about it.
Man, it's so hard to not just look at everything that he brings to the table and get carried away about what the potential is. Now, of course, we look at what you're doing with the bat right now, and it's hard to not get carried away about that. Creed, I'm wondering if you could, like, what are the goals for you? Like, when you get off to a start like this, it's just so insane. What is it that as you continue along, before you get that bump to high A, what are the goals for you as you continue to sort of move along in this process?
I think it's just to be consistent with it all. Like, yeah, you're gonna have stints where you go, 0 for 15, 0 for 20. But it's, for me, like this year, a big thing is like just, focusing on the next one. And I think that's one thing that's big for me is like, I have a journal that I like recap all of my at-bats in, and on the front of it in big letters it says, the only important one's the next one. And it's just a reminder for me that, like, all right, you get out, okay, who cares? Like, you strike out, all right, well, that one's over with. Like, there's no reason to, like, harp on it. Like, just focus on the next one. And I think the big thing for me is just to continue to remember that the most important one's the next one. And so that, and then just being consistent with the work, like, challenging yourself and in early work and stuff like that, and just going about your business and taking care of what you need to take care of, and let the rest take care of itself.
I like the sounds of it, man. It all sounds really, really good. And, boy, the way that you are producing, it's hard to not get carried away about it. Creed, I know on Twitter it's at Creed Willems 11, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then are you on Instagram as well?
I am.
Where can we follow you on Instagram?
It is CWI11EMS.
Give him a follow there. Go ahead. Yeah.
Creed, one last question. We've got the Orioles system, including yourself. There's just a plethora of offensive prospects. But do you have a pitcher down there that you'd like us to keep an eye on, one or two names?
I think a big one would definitely be Juan Nunez. We got him in that trade with the Twins last year.
Okay.
And everything I've seen, he's been unbelievable on the mound. And he's one of those guys, like, he likes to have fun, but whenever it comes down time to pitch, like, he's locked in, and he loves playing the game. You can just tell it. So, yeah, definitely probably the big one to keep an eye on, in my opinion.
More relief pitcher or starter?
He's a starter.
Okay.
That sounds.
I appreciate that.
We like
keep
that.
an eye on him.
Yeah, of course.
Creed Willems, really appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time for us. We look forward to seeing you not only down at Delmarva, but I'm sure before too long up here at Aberdeen as well. Appreciate you hopping on.
Thank you for having me.
Creed Willems checking in with us as we make our first visit down at Delmarva this season.
Impressive kid.
Yeah, I remember talking to him after the draft. And again, he's a young man, right? He was thinking about going to TCU and decided to come here. The Orioles made a bit of an investment to get him to come here, so they clearly were very high on him. Fascinating to hear him talk about, going through the body. Because, he was a big kid. There's no question about that. And for some guys, that's just where they're comfortable at.
I read this piece that John Mioli did, and I got the sense that it was something that he I don't think the club went to him and said, "Hey, dude, you need to lose weight." I think it was like a self-reflective moment, like, "Hey, I got to take this more seriously." Because they have invested in
paying off so far, man. Paying off big time. Appreciate Creed Willems hopping on with us this morning here on GCR. A couple of things. One, some news elsewhere this morning. Maryland has redone Mike Loxley's deal. It's going to keep him under contract through now 2027. Doesn't look like it's significant necessarily.
Is he getting some NIL money?
Right. His salary this year is $5.5 million with bumps of $300,000 in each subsequent season. That's from Gene Wang of the Washington Post, who said he was able to track down the terms.
$5.5 million.
Apparently, it's through now 2028, and it will ultimately end up paying him $7 million in 2028. It will raise to be $7 million in 2028.
I guess he can continue to afford that barbecue.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. I don't even think that comes out of his pocket, if I remember correctly, so that's not going to be an issue. There was some rumors this week about maybe Talia Tungavailoa ending up back in the transfer portal. Right now, it appears as though those are unfounded. Who was the quarterback that Alabama landed yesterday?
The kid from Notre Dame,
right?
Yeah.
Buckner, something like that. I don't know a lot about him, but I feel like there were some people that had hinted around the idea that perhaps Alabama, needing a quarterback, would try to go sniff back around Taulia Tagovailoa. And I think the common belief is that them landing the kid from Notre Dame takes them out of that being something they would consider doing at this point. I don't know. I tried poking around on it a little bit. It didn't seem like it was significant, but I think that
Tyler Buchner,
who ended up going from Notre Dame to Alabama. So it seems as though they have their quarterback, and so that's not going to be a concern. Of course, Notre Dame had landed, Sam Hartman, the kid from Wake Forest. That they had gotten him earlier in the transfer portal window. So they, had committed to them, and he was their guy, or him, and he was their guy. So that was the reason why this quarterback chose to move on. All right. We continued. It's been a busy day today here on GCR, and we've enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun on the program today. The plan, by the way, KZ and I will try later tonight. As I mentioned, I got to do the volleyball semifinals. But after the end of the third round tonight, we will hope to hop back on Facebook Live and do something quick to kind of go over whatever the Ravens do, whether it's just making a third-round pick or should they, do something still significant. I do think we all agree that the DeAndre Hopkins thing is totally out the window now. I can't fathom the insanity of whether – it seems like now, for the first time ever, like they have to make some awkward decisions at wide receiver between now and the start of the season. Now, as Stan brought up about the relief pitching situation, some of that could handle itself, and, somebody could end up going down between now and then. But some of their draft picks in recent years, Prochet, Wallace, there appears to be a difficult path to the roster at the moment if you accept that the top 5 guys are Flowers, Bateman, Beckham, Aguilar, Duvernay, right? Like if you identify those, and Duvernay, whose spot seems safe because he's your returner, then it seems like there is a tough path.
Zay Flowers ever returned, did he? I don't think he did.
I don't think he ever returned. You can double check on that. I don't know that for sure. I'm not seeing any punt return. He had 7 punt returns a year ago.
Okay.
Zay Flowers. So
Zay Flowers, yeah.
They at least now it's only 7, so I guess it's
43 total yards.
I don't know that he was their primary returner. Maybe he was their
Duvernay was our main guy before his injury.
Yeah, and that's why I assume that Duvernay's spot is safe and that he will safely be on the roster. I know there was talk at one point that you could save some money by cutting Duvernay or trading Duvernay, and so that was a conversation. I just never knew what the value would be for Duvernay on the open market, and so given the fact that he was a high-level returner, a Pro Bowl caliber returner, I always thought that they would attempt to make that work to keep him around to at least do that.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't know how he is in his comeback from his injury, but if you were trying to keep Patrick Queen and were trying to get draft picks, he'd be an interesting guy now to especially with Flowers being able to do returns.
Or if you think that Prochet could handle more of that or something along those lines.
Interesting.
I'm not gonna look. I would not lose any sleep if they can find somebody that's willing to give them something for Devin Duvernay. I'm not gonna lose my mind. Right. I'm not losing my mind about it. I don't know what the market would be. It seemed more like he was at risk of being cut than there was ever really going to be much of a trade market for Devin. He's a returner, right? Like you're hoping that a team values a returner so highly and also scouted him well coming out of college and says, well, we think we could get something out of him that the Ravens never did.
I think he's somebody that is an interesting player. I think he's more than a returner.
It's funny, Stan, because I always felt that way. Yeah. Like I always thought, but at some point, we've been doing this for a long time. It's easy to say, well, it's all Greg Roman's fault, right? Like if it had just not been Greg Roman, Devin Duvernay would be a quality football player. Maybe that's the case. But can I make that assumption at this point? Like I've never seen him on the field and said, oh, that's proof that the kid's special. That's proof that he can do some special things. I'm not opposed to him getting another shot to get in, have some plays and things that you look to do with him. I'm totally all right with that. I don't know. I'm not confident any longer that he's definitely an offensive football player. I'm no longer feeling that. All right. Is there anything that we didn't cover this morning that we need to cover?
We're going to do totally tubular, right?
Yes,
and that's where we talk about sports games that are on television.
Oh, is there something that?
Well, I just thought it's interesting that Sacramento and Golden State tonight.
Yeah, they play the early
8
game.
o'clock.
Yeah,
and that means it's a 5 o'clock game.
Yeah, West Coast
for,
time
for Warrior.
You know, it's weird. Like we always do this during the baseball playoffs, and we never bat an eye about the idea of there being afternoon games.
I do bat. I bat an eye that because especially outdoors, the sun is so different. At 4, at 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon when those games are on like 4:30 on the West Coast,
I don't know. I thought it was weird when I saw it too. I get it. These are the only 2 games. Like that, in another world, they would have structured this, and there would be more game 6s, something like that. It's weird that 2 West Coast teams are playing at 5 p.m.
right
Pacific time. The late game tonight is Lakers Grizzlies. So like if that was the 8 o'clock game, then at least one of those teams is playing in a kind of normal-ish spot. ESPN has the rights very specifically to Friday nights, and so this is them saying, we're not going to have – this is the way it's going to go. Deal with it. And I kind of, like, staying in a weird way, I've always felt there was an excitement to afternoon playoff games. Like, we remember the Delman Young game was an afternoon game, right?
Yeah.
That what it does for the city, for the – we're going to – it creates an energy, a something where the entire city's kind of bought in.
Yeah, they're all focused.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, people are ducking out of work or everybody's gathering around a TV somewhere. I feel like it adds something kind of neat when you have that type of situation play out. This isn't exactly the same thing because it is 5 o'clock. It's not middle of the afternoon. It's late in the afternoon. But I don't know, like, it's weird. I don't disagree with that. Just
odd for the players' clocks.
That's definitely
in basketball.
It's definitely different. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by both the print issue of Press Box, which is indeed, we're just talking to Creed Willems. This is about the pipeline of talent that still exists within the Orioles system. Even though Adley and Gunnar and Grayson are already here, there's still a lot. And that Jackson holiday illustration is on the cover. You can go pick it up for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox, or read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Joey Ortiz was featured, and, of course,
he's now in the big leagues.
Very nice debut for Joey Ortiz last night with 3 RBI, a huge hit to get the Orioles offense going at a time where they were being stymied last night.
I wrote something about 10, 12 days ago, a column about some observations, and the bench the Orioles have of McCann, I really like him as a player, but McKenna, Vavra, and at the time O'Hearn wasn't even up, so I'm trying to remember who was on the it was just a lousy bench that manager Brandon Hyde had, and it's interesting they swapped out Vavra for Ortiz right now.
Ortiz was swinging a very hot bat at Norfolk.
3 RBIs last night.
And got off to a very good start last night. You hope. And by the way, of course, the first at bat that he had probably in a normal world should have been a hit, but Baddoo just made a ridiculous diving catch in left center field in order to rob him of a hit. So it was very impressive at bats last night from Joey Ortiz in his major league debut. But with that print issue in mind, we are also partnering up, and we mentioned that contest that we're doing. If you want to go see Creed Willems and the Shorebirds this season, you can head over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests and sign up. 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams. 1 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25, and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. Must be 18 years or older in order to enter, and the sweepstakes ends on June 14th. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/contest to get signed up.
So with Joey Ortiz in his 3 RBI game in his major league debut, he joins what other Oriole as the only other Oriole to have 3 RBIs in their major league debut?
Frank Robinson.
No.
No, major league debut.
Yes,
not Orioles
debut.
debut. Sorry.
Yes.
Major league debut.
Yeah.
I'll just give it to
Eddie
you.
Murray?
Manny Machado.
No. Don Baylor. Don Baylor,
That's right.
1970.
I actually heard that last night.
Yes,
I
yeah. I
remember.
wasn't sure if you guys had heard it, but
Yep.
yes, Don Baylor. That is who. They're the only Orioles with 3 RBIs in their major league
How about
debut.
that?
With the Packers drafting Lucas Van Ness, it is their 21st straight draft where the Packers have not selected a offensive skill position in the first round. So running back, receiver, tight end, 21 straight years they have not attacked offensive skill position.
Like, we complained about a lot of things in Baltimore over the years. Imagine what they've had at quarterback, and they've just sort of been like, meh, we're good. We're good.
For the first time since the NFL merger in 1970, the first offensive and defensive players selected in the NFL draft are from the same school.
Both
Bryce
from
Young,
Alabama.
Yes, Bryce Young and Will Anderson, both from Alabama. And this is also the 4th time ever since the merger, so since 1970, that 3 quarterbacks went in the top 5 of the NFL draft. Do you think you can try to name the ones in the
first time since?
The first time since 2021. So 2021, 1999, and 1971, there were also 3 QBs in the top 5.
Oh, so you want us to guess who they were in those years?
Yeah, if you can. I have another one if this is too hard for you.
I mean, it's not about it being too hard. It's just about jogging my memory of what year was which. You
2021.
Said 2021 would have been, wait a second, 2 years ago. So that would have been Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor
right?
Lawrence went 1 overall.
Oh, God, it was
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it was Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
And Lance, right?
Trey Lance. 1, 2, 3 in 2021.
Well, it's not a good sign if 2 years ago. I'm already struggling to remember it.
1999. Do you remember who went number 1 overall?
99 was to
the Cleveland Browns selected.
They took
Tim Couch.
Tim Couch.
Yep,
right?
Tim Couch went 1st overall.
Right.
2nd overall was this
Achilles Smith? No,
he
was
went
before
3rd. He
third?
went 3rd.
Okay.
Achilles Smith went to the Bengals, right?
Yes.
Achilles Smith.
And was that McNabb?
It was Donovan McNabb. He
McNabb.
went 2nd overall in 1999. And then 1971.
Sure.
71.
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw?
Not Terry Bradshaw. He was our tidbit. He was one of the tidbits yesterday, Glenn. This
Archie Manning?
Archie Manning went 2nd overall.
Archie Manning.
Do you know who went 1st and 3rd?
Sure. Give me the teams.
He was with the Browns, right? This guy.
Browns.
Bernie Kosar?
What team was he?
He was 70. No, he would have been after 71, right? He couldn't have been that.
Yeah. 70.
The Raiders. Sorry.
The Raiders.
Jim Plunkett?
Jim Plunkett went 1st overall in 1971. And then he was followed by, at 3rd overall, Dan Pastorini.
Oh, if you had said the Oilers, I probably would have come up with Dan Pastorini.
Dan Pastorini. This was also
You
the
didn't have
first
to-
draft in the common draft era, so since 1967, that every first-round pick was from a major conference.
Last night?
Yeah, last night. Every pick came from a major conference. And I want to see if you guys can try to name the top 10 schools with the most first-round picks. Top 10 schools.
In the history?
Yes, ever.
Alabama.
Alabama would be. They're not number 1. They are number
But they're
3.
in the they're
yes,
but
they're
we're
number 3.
doing the top 10.
Yeah, we're doing the
Ohio
top 10.
State.
Ohio State is number 190 first-round picks.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is 4th.
Michigan.
Michigan is on this list, 51 after Mazzie Smith went last night.
Florida.
Florida is in this top 10, 57 first-round picks for the Florida Gators.
Oklahoma.
How about USC?
Oklahoma just in there. Also, USC is 2nd, 84 for USC, and then Oklahoma tied for 8th.
UCLA.
UCLA not in the top 10.
Texas.
Texas just outside of the top 10. 46 with
Florida State.
Florida State is also just outside. They're tied with Texas.
Miami.
46. Miami is in there. Florida, 67 first-round picks, 5th.
LSU.
LSU tied for 8th with Oklahoma.
And Georgia?
Georgia moved into the top 10. They're tied with this team. Well,
So
yeah,
there's 11.
I was gonna cut it off at 10, but yeah. Do you want to try to guess who they're tied with after getting 3 first-round picks?
Auburn.
Georgia's tied after getting 3 first-round picks. Not Auburn. It is another SEC school though.
SEC.
Texas A&M.
Tennessee.
Tennessee, yes, Tennessee. Most first-round picks go to those schools.
How about that? How about
Maryland's not in there?
Yeah,
no, Maryland's not.
They did get another one last night.
They got
though.
one last night, baby.
Deontay Banks goes to the Giants.
18th first-round pick for Maryland.
Baltimore native. I don't know if everybody knows that Brian Brees. Who did Brian Brees?
Brzee, I think is.
Brzee, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Sorry, Brzee.
He went to.
Where did he go? But he's from Damascus. I don't know that everybody
Yeah.
knows that either. Of course, they also produced Jake Funk.
The Green Bay Packers picked Lucas Van Ness.
Yes.
Did you see the video of him?
I don't know
the
that I did.
Lambeau leap.
No.
They had he's on his seat like
Okay.
talking on his cell phone. There are 3 or 4 absolutely gorgeous women with him, right? And his buddy, who clearly was drunk, does a leap onto him.
Really?
Yeah. It was very,
You know.
it was very entertaining.
Well,
Look
I mean,
the video.
I found a different video of somebody alleging that Lucas Van Ness's father might have slapped his girlfriend on the butt like she was a football player. And
Oh yes, yeah, that was that. I did that.
hang on a
that
second.
was-
Let me
Is
watch
that
the
so
whole
bad,
thing.
really?
Yeah, he definitely did that. That definitely happened. Hang on a second. This is I searched to try to find the video that you're talking about. Here's the girlfriend hopping up and the father. Yep, right in there. Right,
Kind of like
in
an
there.
Urban Meyer.
Right. Well, I don't think it was a shocker. I don't think they went straight to that. This was more like the good game pat on the.
But have you
ass.
been able to
I've-
find
all
that
right, let me see
video?
if I can-
Boop, boop. Brzee is a New Orleans Saint, by the way.
Thank you.
29th overall.
Lucas
Brian
Van
Brzee.
Ness. Hang on a second. Leap. Let me see if I can find that one.
It's very funny.
I can't. All right, I'll keep looking. I'll keep looking.
I'll look. I'll
All right,
look.
you
do the
find it.
show.
All right, yeah,
I-
I'll do the show then. So, you're here. I'm there. I'll do the show, and you try to find the video. All right, that's it for Tidbit, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right, Tidbit
yes.
was also brought to you today by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Oh, you got it? Hang on a second. Let me see about that.
Hold on.
Tidbit,
I'm a little-
Tubular.
I'm a little challenged.
All right. Tubular is going to be brought to you by A.J. Michaels. Expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels. Heating, plumbing, AC, and home performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. All right, let's see. All right. There we go.
This is
Lucas
the full
Van Ness
clip.
gets the. I got you. I got you. Yes, I got you.
Do you give play-by-play
Hang on
of
a
it?
second. Yeah, right.
He's telling everybody quiet down.
And then somebody comes in and just
Jumps
dives
right
on
on him.
top of him. Just, it looks like a little brother type.
Right, yeah.
Just dives right
Looks
on
more
top
like
of
a
him.
drunken
Yeah,
friend.
you're
best
right.
friend.
You're right. Well, everybody was having a good time. Everybody
And
was.
a good
having
time
fun.
was had by all.
100%.
There were no asses patted in the.
I did
making
not
of
in that video.
Yeah, I think the full clip. They're all they cut back to it, and then everyone's standing up, and he's like, high fiving everybody, and then the dad is like, I guess hugs the girlfriend, and then his hand goes a little.
No,
low.
I just
Goes a
watched.
little- Oh,
it.
you just watched it. Okay.
He
Yes.
definitely
Yes.
is giving
Yes.
her pats on the ass. It's like what we. It's a good game pat on the ass. It's not a feel.
It wasn't a.
It's not a
sexual-
rub.
Yeah.
It's a like it makes me think his dad's a coach, and this is just what he does. Like, no matter what, it's just pats on the ass. That's the way that he operates. I don't think that I want to make this abundantly clear. This is not my way of saying that that's okay. It's not okay if it's not an acceptable thing. You can't do that. You can't just say, I'm a coach, I'm allowed to. It doesn't work that way. I just think that's what happened. That's all that I'm trying to say. I think that's what happened there last night. All right, here's what's coming up this weekend, totally tubular. We begin tonight. NFL Draft Rounds 2 and 3, 7 o'clock on ESPN, ABC, and NFL Network. It'll move from ESPN to ESPN2 at 8 o'clock because, as Stan pointed out, ESPN has Kings-Warriors Game 6 tonight at 8, then Grizzlies-Lakers Game 6 at 10:30.
Game 6 Clay tonight.
That's right. It is game. Oh yeah, I didn't even think about
6
that.
6-2 in his last 8 games.
I can't believe he's ever lost a game 6.
I know.
Of
26.
Of course, the Cavaliers series. We
Yeah.
do know that they lost game 6.
Averages
for
26 points a game and 52% from 3 in Game 6.
He's a monster in Game 6. Mass and 2 tonight. Orioles Tigers 6:30. Grayson Rodriguez, Eduardo Rodriguez, the Rodriguez v. Rodriguez matchup again, like we saw last Sunday. Also tonight, Loyola and Navy lacrosse wrap their regular seasons. Loyola's at Lehigh, Navy's at Bucknell. Both games 7:30 on ESPN+. Maryland baseball against Indiana at 6 o'clock on Big Ten Network. And tonight, a champion will be crowned in the MASL. Unfortunately for the Baltimore Blast, they lost in overtime of this Game 1 of the series last night. But Game 2, if they win it, they'll force a mini-game following that. That's streaming on Twitch tonight at 10, the Blast against Chihuahua. NHL playoffs tonight, the Stanley Cup playoffs, Bruins-Panthers, Game 6, 7:30, Avalanche-Kraken, Game 6 at 10, both on TNT. TBS for Hurricanes-Islanders, Game 6 at 7, Stars-Wild, Game 6 at 9:30. Tomorrow, the final 4 rounds of the NFL Draft at noon on ESPN and NFL Network. Orioles-Tigers at 1 tomorrow on Mass and 2. Dean Kramer and Matthew Boyd, the pitching matchup. If you live elsewhere, you can watch it on ESPN Plus tomorrow. So I don't know why. Maryland football spring game at noon tomorrow on Big Ten Network. Also, the Big Ten lacrosse tournament gets underway. Rutgers at Maryland tomorrow night at 8 on BTN. The women's tournament also gets underway this weekend as Maryland hosts Ohio State at 4:30 tomorrow, Big Ten Network Plus. Local lacrosse elsewhere. Towson needs a win to get into the CAA tournament. They host Delaware. That ain't going to be easy. That's noon on Flow Sports. UMBC wraps up their season as they host Vermont at noon on AmericaEast.tv. Suns-Nuggets Game 1 tomorrow night, 8:30 on TNT. Devils-Rangers Game 6 tomorrow night at 8 on ABC. Maple Leafs-Lightning Game 6 at 7, and Oilers-Kings Game 6 at 10 on TBS. And on Sunday, Kyle Bradish, Spencer Turnbull, 1:30 on Mass and 2. Heat-Knicks Game 1 at 1 on ABC. Everything else, find at glennclarkradio.com.
Question: about a week ago, they had the Colorado, Deion Sanders.
Oh, yes, the spring
debut.
game, yes.
And they had about 45,000 people there.
Yeah, it was
where
nuts.
previous they used to have about
Did
4,000.
you see the video that they there was a panoramic
from
somebody edited a panoramic of last year with
Right.
a panoramic of this year and showed
the different
nobody
energy.
and-
Yeah. I'm just wondering, what do you think the interest is in Maryland football?
Not
in the
that.
spring?
Not that.
Do you think
And
there's
it's gonna be
more
raining
interest
tomorrow.
though?
I mean, I think there's been steadily. Oh yeah, the weather's supposed to suck.
This
That's
weekend.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
so that'll really hurt that. Look, I do think there's been a bit more interest. I think that there has been a steady rise. I don't think yet to the place where you're going to get a big spring game crowd, but I do think that for some of the more nondescript games this fall, there might be a few more people that show up for, what Charlotte is a home game this year, right?
Towson, Charlotte, and
Yeah,
they
what's
have
the third
another
one?
non-conference game, the third game.
I think the Virginia, right? Now that
Virginia.
game I think you'll get a really good crowd for. But yeah, the Towson, the Charlotte games, I think there'll be a few more people at those games than you would have expected in years past, where it would be like 20,000 people that would show up. I think you could get 30,000 people, something like that, that show up for those couple of really nondescript games to start the season. But yeah, the spring games, that's really for students in most places that aren't Alabama or Ohio State or Clemson. Like in most places, that's for students at the end of the semester. They kind of throw even at Penn State, they got to throw like a carnival in order to get kids to come out to the spring game.
Will Maryland have a draft pick tonight?
Yeah, I don't know
probably-
when the receivers will start going, but it could be that one of them. I think
is there another defensive back?
Jacorian Bennett is the other defensive back. Jalen Duncan, I think, is the most likely one to go tonight, the offensive tackle. And the expectation is that if there's a kicker drafted in the draft, it will be Chad Ryland, the Maryland kicker, who will go. So I think that Jalen Duncan's the most likely one for tonight. Maybe one of the receivers goes tonight. I think there'll be a lot more tomorrow. I think there'll be a bunch of Maryland kids that'll be selected tomorrow.
That's interesting. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah. And a couple local connections like Ronnie Brown from Shepherd, who we're hoping hears his name in the 7th round or so, and Joey Fisher from Hagerstown, some other guys like that. Non-sports this weekend?
Pete Davidson's going to be on Jimmy Fallon. He's got a new show coming out on Peacock.
I thought it was Peter Davidson. We've learned now.
What?
Because
Really? Is it
you
Peter?
haven't seen the dumb Taco Bell commercial?
Then.
Hi, I'm Peter Davidson.
Peter Davidson. Yeah. He's got a show called Bupkis. It's essentially about his life. It comes out next week on Peacock.
I think I remember seeing about.
There's
Doesn't
like,
it have a pretty good cast?
Yeah,
actually?
like John Mulaney plays like his best friend.
Yeah.
Hold on, I wrote it down somewhere. Charlie Day is his therapist. Edie Falco is his mom, and then Joe Pesci is his grandfather.
I do love Edie Falco.
Oh, jeez, Joe Pesci plays his grandfather.
See that we can laugh about Pete Davidson all we want, But that cast is really
Right.
good.
Oh, Edie Falco and Joe Pesci.
Right? And I love John Mulaney. Like,
Who played his therapist?
Charlie Day. Charlie Day.
I love Charlie Day. There's apparently Ray Romano's involved, and Brad Garrett's involved, and Kenan Thompson, Sebastian Stan. What the hell is this
Sebastian
cast?
Stan?
This has got to be. They just have to be listening to people that make cameos. That has to be. Because they got Bobby Cannavale. They've got
That's
Steve Buscemi, Method Man, Jon Stewart. This has to be a heavy cameoed show. But the main cast
Everyone
does
that's on
involve
Staten
Pete
Island.
Davidson, Edie Falco, Joe Pesci. Like, that alone.
That's great.
I'm watching. I'm going to.
What's it called? Butt Kiss?
Bupkiss.
Bupkiss.
Next week on Peacock.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll watch it.
The After Party on Apple TV Plus comes out today. It's like a murder mystery. There's a murder at a high school reunion after party. Tiffany Haddish is this detective, and she's got to solve it. And, like, Ben Schwartz is in it. Dave Franco, Sam Richardson.
I like those people.
Yes. Yeah. So
And we never canceled Dave Franco, right? Like, we're still good with him.
I think. I think
Okay.
he's cool.
All
Yeah,
right.
he's cool. The big one.
My wife loves the Jump Street movies. They're like some of her favorite movies ever. And so, like, that scene where they're in the prison with Rob Riggle, and he's like, he loves me. I'm his bitch. And he says, "No, you." Oh, I don't know what he used the word, like, my mangina. He was like, and Dave Franco's just like gritting between it. It doesn't work. I don't know why I love that scene so much.
You see the Disaster Artist, the Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, of course, the Tommy Wiseau
man,
movie. Yeah,
love that. I
100%.
love The Room is. I love The Room.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's great.
Like,
great.
not ironically.
Both ironically and
All right.
legitimately.
All right.
Yeah. Citadel, new show on Prime Video. It's the spy action thriller.
That looks kind of interesting.
Yeah, directed by the Russo brothers.
Stanley Tucci's in it.
Yes,
Really?
Stanley Tucci. So like the
And the girl who was in, she's married to one of the Jonas Brothers. The
Priyanka, what's her? Oh God, what is her? I like her.
I like her a lot. She was in
Chopra, Priyanka Chopra.
and what was the series she was in?
Yeah.
She played like a recruit at the FBI or something like that. Quantico.
Quantico, yeah,
thank you.
Quantico. Yes. So that comes out, and he's like the spy organization falls, and the spies have to work together to save the world, I guess.
By the way, she was in a great movie at the beginning of the pandemic, White Tiger. Do you remember that
I don't
movie?
remember that one.
Oh man, that was a great movie.
Okay, all right.
Add it to the list. I'll put it on tubular.
I've been trying to catch up. This week I've spent a lot of time trying to get caught up on Barry. Like, I've been trying to get caught up before the season ends on Barry. I'm up to like the end of season 2, so I've been making progress.
On Disney Plus, Peter Pan and Wendy, that movie comes out. I think it'll be good.
My wife will have my kids watch it for sure.
And Fatal Attraction show on Paramount Plus. It's like a reimagining of the 1987 movie, and then of course Succession, Lucky Hank, and Barry all on Sunday nights.
Is there no SNL this weekend?
No new SNL
That's
this
a
week.
bummer. That's a bummer.
Lucky Hank is terrific.
I do love Lucky
Now
Hank.
he's got another series coming out.
Bob Odenkirk
Bob
does?
Odenkirk, yeah.
Another one?
I saw.
Well, he did another Nobody, right? When is that coming?
No, I'm not talking about Nobody.
You're saying
This
another
is
TV
another
show.
TV series. I think it's on either.
Apparently, he's going to be in the next season of The Bear. Which is
I gotta watch The Bear.
Oh my God, I'm all in on that. The Bear was great.
Really?
Did you watch it?
No.
It was. I mean, it's not fun.
This is not Cocaine Bear.
No, the Cocaine Bear was fun. This is The Bear is not fun. It is triggering, man. Like, it is a lot of. It is intense. It is just everybody being rattled and at their wits' end as they run this restaurant in Chicago. Like, it is bonkers. But I say enjoyed it. I enjoyed it as much as you can enjoy something that's not a fun watch. It was a really intense show to watch that had moments of good levity. Like, they did a great job of bringing levity to a very intense show so they could call it a comedy. It is so much more than that. Bob Odenkirk joining The Bear is wild to me. I have no idea what that looks like. But I'm for it because I'm for anything that Bob Odenkirk does. All right, very good. Stan, you'll be on with the boys tomorrow, correct? On the Bat Around?
Yes, I will.
Talking baseball. The Bat Around every Saturday from 10 to noon with Paul and Zach. Power rankings on Monday?
Power rankings on Monday.
I don't know how much you want to tease. AJ wanted to know if you're going to have the Orioles or Pirates higher in the rankings.
I think the Orioles are going to be higher than the Pirates, but the Pirates are coming on.
Yeah. Got Brian Reynolds locked up. Of course, the story in baseball this week with Drew oh God, what is his last name? Maggie.
Drew Maggie.
Maggie. It's a great story. It's like everybody thought, Orioles and Pirates in the World Series. Book it right now. Like
Get our
everybody
revenge
assumed. Yeah, right.
No doubt
Finally
about
avenged
it.
1979 and
How about that as a
the next
omometer?
meter, right? The 1979 meter, and we try to find what's his face's wife and her stupid whistle, and God, who was it?
Omar Moreno.
Thank you, Omar Moreno's wife and her stupid whistle, and we try to exorcise some demons, and then we can smash Sister.
Such a disappointing series.
Smash Sister Sledge
up
records.
3-1 with Flanagan.
Oh, that might
Palmer.
be the mayor, by the way.
It is.
Is it?
Yes.
That might be the mayor. Well, we got time for the mayor. We'll make that happen before we wrap up today's show. We'll make that happen before we get out of here. I had given him the number and told him that he could call in this morning if he wanted, and I didn't know if it was going to happen or not, but right before we say goodbye, the mayor's going to hop on with us for just a second. No, Monday night you're going to be talking to Jack Graham.
Jack Graham.
Yes, the general manager. The
Thursday night, T.J. Brightman and Jennifer Grandal
from the Orioles, no doubt. Appreciate here as we wind down for a Friday edition of the program. The mayor, Mr. Brandon Scott, has joined us now here on GCR. Mr. Mayor, it's Glenn and Stan. I know how fired up you are. Thank you for squeezing in a couple minutes with us this morning.
I'm good. It's a beautiful purple Friday here in Baltimore City, Glenn.
It is very much. I told you when we talked a couple weeks ago, I said that people voted for you. It was time you did something already. Is it? Do you get to take your victory lap now? Did you, at any point, did you finally take and say, all right, I'm going to get involved. I'm going to make this happen?
Nope. Like I told you before, I knew that we were going to do the right thing and that it was going to get done. There's a business side to the league, and that we were going to have our quarterback. Now, I didn't know we were going to have our quarterback and Odell Beckham Jr.
Right.
Now with the core that we have at the skill position, but Odell with the draft tape from last night, with Mark Andrews, with Likely, with Bateman, like we have what is the best skill core receiver, tight end core that the Ravens probably have ever had at one time. And when you put that on our quarterback, who is box office, who is the biggest one-man show the NFL has seen, you put the rest of the league on notice. I've been getting texts from my fellow mayors about it. I told the mayor of Cleveland he should just break out his Browns paper bag and put it on his head right now because they're getting swept. They're getting swept as they always do. And I even heard from my good friend, the mayor of Kansas City, Quentin Lucas, who unfortunately for him, he was talking a little trash about the Super Bowl champions, and I reminded him the last time that he was in Baltimore, he saw Lamar do a flip into the end zone.
That's true.
We sent Patty Mahomes home with a loss, and I'll see him in the AFC Championship game, and we're going to win.
I love hearing the mayor of Baltimore talking some trash.
This is great. This is tremendous. Hey, Mr. Mayor, I was talking to the governor about this earlier. Can you quantify for people, like as much fun as we have with this and as silly as it is, can you explain what Lamar means as a commodity to the city when it comes to tourism, when it comes to all of these things? Like it's fun for us because we love sports and we want to watch, an unbelievable quarterback play. But can you explain and say, hey, by the way, maybe there's a value to this that you might not understand just in a sports context?
Well, yeah. When you think about Lamar's value, and yes, everything you're saying, Glenn, about having his big superstar quarterback, MVP athlete, and everyone wants to come to the town where he's at, buy the jersey, come see him play, come when we have Sunday and Thursday and Monday night games that the NFL has to get right this year to make sure we have multiple of them. By the way, I hope they're listening. Yes, that's all true. And we love that. We love that, right? Roger Goodell, if you're hearing me, Thursday or Sunday night, the first week, it should be a Ravens game, Ravens-Bengals here at M&T. But in Baltimore, Lamar specifically has an even deeper impact. We always love, Glenn, athletes that become really deeply embedded and ingrained in the community, right? Not those who just show up for these scheduled events, but those who just pop up. And Lamar, who is always doing that, going into places in the city of Baltimore, what he means for young men growing up in the city or growing up in similar situations like him, and his ability to speak to them and tell them and show them how they can work through that adversity to grow into the best version of themselves. That's what we're also talking about, us not losing here. In a city that has so many young men, and predominantly young black men that look like him, grew up like him, that want to emulate him, but also can learn from him, learn that hard working ethic, learn that believing and betting on yourself, even when no one else believes that you're doing the right thing and you're focused in the right way, as long as you're working hard. That's what he brings. That commodity is something that we can't replace.
Very well said, Mr. Mayor. Got to ask you a question off the beaten track of conventional sports in Baltimore. There's rumors now that the whole Maryland racing thing is about to flip the other way, and that Pimlico is actually going to be the hub of Maryland racing, and that the Stronach Group might close Laurel down. Can you give us any information on how that is going, and if that is in fact correct?
I will say that what we are focused on, and what I'm focused on in the city, as we work with our partners at the state, obviously, who's leading that work, and work with the Stronach Group as a partner, is we are focused on making sure that Preakness and Pimlico continue to operate, and that we do this big redevelopment. But if we get to a point where Pimlico is the epicenter, the mayor of Baltimore surely will not complain about that.
Yeah, I can tell you, Stan, that it's something that I know Brandon, it means a whole lot to him. That's his neighborhood. It's been very important in the process, and I have no doubt that's the case. So how do you, is it just victory lap today? Is that the way this works? Like, I being a politician, and knowing you didn't actually do this yourself, although we can take credit for it, how important is it for you to have your face out and be like, yeah, man, today, let's remind everybody in the world it's a good day to be in Baltimore?
Oh, yeah, if you saw my tweets and Instagram posts yesterday, I wanted to immediately let everyone know that the mayor put the word out, Lamar's a Raven for life, and we up. So it's a way for us, but it's not just that. We're coming off of Tank showing the world that a Baltimore boxer is the face of boxing now. The Orioles are doing what we knew they would do this year, and that's win and show everyone that you can build the right way. We're coming off of Angel showing everybody that you can't bet against a Baltimore baller, and she doing what she did. This is a perfect and wonderful time to be a Baltimore sports fan, and we love it each and every day.
We've gotten to see the arena now. I know how big of a deal that was for you. Have you been in touch at all with anybody in Tank's camp to try to make it happen, to bring him back now that, he was here and gave us an incredible night when the arena wasn't what it is now? Have you, gone down that road to try to say, how do we make this happen?
We'll see how that progresses, working with our partners at CFG Bank and of course CFG Arena in Oakview. We would love to have him back here in Baltimore, and we'll keep you updated on that. But also, we know now that Tank's is box office. So no matter where he's fighting, Baltimore's going to be, as we know we took over Vegas last week.
And let me just ask you, what does he have tattooed on his back now?
Yeah, right.
Oh, you know what? I haven't paid attention to that at all.
He's got Baltimore on his back.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Big and blazing.
I actually didn't pay attention to that during the fight at all. I was too busy watching him quiver someone's liver.
Hang on, there might have to be at some point a bet that would you if the Orioles were to win the World Series this year, Mr. Mayor, is there any chance we could get you to get Baltimore tattooed on your back?
Oh no, I'm not doing tattoos. That doesn't work for me.
How about Glenn? That's not for me. Mr. Mayor, how about if Glenn gets his
I would do that.
Tattoos Baltimore.
I swear, if the Orioles win the World Series this year, I will tattoo Baltimore on my back.
We heard it here first, Glenn. I'll be there to record it live on Instagram.
You can hold me to it. If the Orioles win the World Series, I will replicate Tank's Baltimore tattoo on my back if the Orioles win the World Series this year. There'd be a lot of things I'd be willing to do if the Orioles win the World Series this year. All right, Mr. Mayor, I know you're a busy man. I know it's an exciting day for you. Thank you for hopping on with us for a couple of minutes and celebrating with us what is a very exciting day with Lamar Jackson being a Raven for life. We'll talk again real soon, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Brandon Scott checking in with us.
Great.
I understood.
What a show today.
Today is that day, right? Today everybody's taking a victory lap. Today is it's a good day. That fact, everybody feels a little bit better around this city. The vibe around this city is just a little bit more energetic. There's a bit more pep in the step. There's just a more celebratory feeling, and everybody wants to embrace that. And I don't blame anybody for wanting to embrace that. Been through a lot of days that weren't like this over the years in Baltimore, so I appreciate having a day like today.
Today on the show, the governor of the state of Maryland, Wes Moore, the mayor of Baltimore.
Right, and Stan the Fan Charles, all of the legends.
And Drew Forrester.
And Drew Forrester. All right.
And Zay Flowers High School coach.
That's right, yeah.
And
Mark Herzlich, of course.
Mark Herzlich.
And Creed Willems.
Who does the analyst work on Boston, some of the Boston College games.
We had a very good day today on the program. We enjoyed it a great deal.
Unfortunately, Griffin was
what?
He wasn't up to
what?
He wasn't. Do you think he was up to the quality of the level of the show?
He tried hard. He tried hard today. Jeez. He tried hard today.
Great job, Griffin.
Nice job, buddy. At Stan the Fan on Twitter is how. Hang on. Let's remind all those people that you just heard Stan mention. If you missed any of it, you'll be able to find it in a little bit in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at glennclarkradio.com. On Monday, Jeff Hafley, Boston College football coach, is scheduled to join us. We'll talk more about Zay Flowers, and we'll react to the rest of the picks that the Ravens make throughout the course of the weekend. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, AJ Michaels, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Hartford Community College, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Stan at Stan the Fan on Twitter. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. The Bat Around tomorrow morning. We'll be back on Monday. Rita and I Sunday from 1 to 4 on 105.7 The Fan as well. Have a great weekend. Go Birds. Go local lacrosse teams. Duke sucks.